On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we tour 4 incredible homes that prove vintage treasures can bring warmth, history, and soul to any space. First, we explore a character-filled 1925 cottage in Long Beach, brimming with flea market gems, antique shop scores, and thrifted finds. Next, we head to North Carolina to tour a vintage dealer's coastal-inspired retreat layered with seascapes, timeless heirlooms, and antique pieces. Then, we step inside a 1800s Victorian in New Jersey, where every corner is filled with thoughtfully curated vintage charm. And finally, we visit a cozy Texas new build brought to life with floral artwork, warm wood tones, natural textures, and well-loved pieces that feel like they've been there forever. This summer, spend the hottest months of the year in style with Homeworthy as we visit the most extraordinary homes around the world. From the sun-soaked shores of the Hamptons to the classic beachfronts of Nantucket to the vibrant courtyards of Morocco, be sure to subscribe to Homeworthy's summer series to make every day feel like a vacation. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey Homeworthy, it's Brian here in Bluff Park in Long Beach, California. Welcome to my home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey, I'm Brian Hickman. I am the co-founder and co-owner of One Good Eye Vintage, and this is my house. What drew me to this particular house in this particular neighborhood is I have lived in several different neighborhoods around Long Beach and restored old houses, primarily old Spanish houses. And I was looking for another project, and a friend of mine said, hey, there's a house that's about to go on the market in Bluff Park, which is the name of this historical neighborhood. And if you want to take a look at it before it goes on the market, I know the people. So I was able to get into the house before, and I made an immediate offer on it before it ever entered the market. I think they put a sign up and it was technically on the market for 2 or 3 days, but it immediately became mine. What drew me to the house really was the Bluff Park neighborhood. This is one of Long Beach's oldest and most prominent historical zones, which means that the houses cannot be altered in any major way on the exterior. And so that means that you'll always have a very vintage-inspired old 1920s, 1930s neighborhood. So that's what drew me to this house, and I was super excited that I got it. We did renovate a lot of this house. The people who were here before me did a great job getting it going, did the structural things, foundations, electric, all the hard stuff, and they put in new floors. But from there, I kind of just wanted to put my own stamp on it, so I sort of reduced it back out, took down some of the more contemporary things, and of course installed a ton of vintage lighting, which is a big passion of mine. So just about every light in this house has been swapped out at this point by me, just to give it the feel of the way that I like to live. And of course, because I'm not under 30, every light's on dimmers. The layout of this house is 1925, and I would describe it as an English cottage style, or kind of a barn-like cottage that you might see in the English countryside. You walk into a little foyer, a little area there, and then you walk directly into the living room, which I'm in right now, and that is the main room of this house. Off to the right, you can go through the dining room and then through a little room that I use as a gallery that has French doors that go directly to the garden. And if you went to the left, you would go through the kitchen and then all the way through to a little room that I use as an office that also overlooks the garden. Also to the right is a staircase, a very steep, narrow, and low staircase. So, buyer beware there. If you go up that staircase, you'll end up at the top of a landing. There is a bedroom to the right, a bedroom to the left, completely symmetrical, and a bathroom right in the center. Again, 1925, Mostly original. That means original single paned windows, wavy glass, old weird wood, things that are crooked, all the things that I love about life. Okay, so the very first room that we go into is the foyer, obviously. Pretty small, but cool, and has a couple of favorite things that I love about the space. I use this old shoe rack to store books, keys, dog leashes, all the stuff that I need at the door. So that's been very, very handy. Got this at the Long Beach Flea Market probably 25 years ago. I've been carrying it around ever since. I also have some Mexican vintage pottery that I love. This cool pot with all these birds and this amazing, whatever this is, monster thing, which I really like. One thing that I wanted to point out that I love is this weird wall. So this whole room was drywalled, I thought, but I had to switch out an electric switch. And when I did, I noticed that on the back of this wall was this. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me why this would be under here. So I came back on this side. What I thought was drywall was actually cardboard that had been horse glued over this wood. Now, I do not understand what this was. I don't know how much of the rooms have this, but I just left this one exposed because I thought it was so beautiful with these big old, vintage planks, these face nailed and these gaps. I just thought it looked so cool. I'm not sure it'll stay here forever, but right now I enjoy looking at it. I probably would never expose all of the rooms if they had this, but I do think it's a beautiful little excavation of an architectural feature of this house, again from 1925. So I do love that. So now that we've done the entry, let's take a look at the living room. All right, so now we're in the living room, one of my favorite rooms, a ton of light in here and really great views, and also filled with a bunch of great things that I've collected over the years. So first up, we have some amazing old 1950s art. I'm a huge fan of both studio pottery and studio art. That is art and pottery that were created at a school. And so this is one of these composition drawings that I love. It's right here over an old Victorian stand that I've had literally forever. So love that. I also have been carrying around this incredible broken Greek urn for probably 30 years. It weighs a ton. Whenever I move, it's the worst thing on the world. It's broken. It probably is going to fall apart any day now, and I could not love it more. So it reminds me that all things are impermanent, right? I also combined it with this cool old shipping container, which I think is fascinating. Something was shipped. It still has the prepaid label and the address on it. Love that. Used it as a side table. Now I just kind of made it into an area with some shapes. So that's pretty cool. Over here, this is the fireplace area. Obviously, I have a lot of art because I really love looking at beautiful things. And so a couple of features here that I love. This was redone before I got here. So they redid the marble and the surround. It did a great job with that. This painting, again, I've had it for decades. It goes from house to house. And actually, even in this house, it goes from room to room. I don't always have stuff in the same room. After a while, I get bored and then I move it around. So that's interesting. I've been carrying around these old andirons. I know I had mentioned sometimes I've had stuff forever and never used it. So I love these andirons and I finally put them in and I love them. So those are great. They remind me of old sculptures from the 50s, Italian, and I love them. I wanted to show you a little bit of this built-in. This is an original built-in to the house. I did swap out the shelves for some rustic shelves just to give it a little bit of texture, and I did this darker color on the background to pick up this painting. I want to show you this painting up close, if I may, because I'm displaying the back of the painting. Believe it or not, I purchased this from England, sight unseen, and I bought this, which I love, so beautiful. But when it arrived, it had this on the back. And I loved this even more. Number one, because you can see the incredible intricate frames and the little splints they've used to keep it together. It has its original price tag thing on it, which I love, and it's signed on the back. So I don't know, I just loved this. I'm sure I'll switch it around at some point, but right now this makes me happy. I also have some of my favorite books in here and some old weird objects that I've created and collected. Really fun. I don't know, I love books and I like looking at other people's style and what they've done. Also a lot of art books because I like art. So a lot of things to look at in here, just things I like looking at That's a good little collection there. If I turn around a little bit here, this is one of the side tables here in the living room. Again, just a little collection of objects and weird things that are going on here. An old mid-century brass lamp, a painting on a little easel that I got, and these incredible Italian side tables, which I'm a huge fan of. These come from a gallery in Palm Springs, and actually that gallery has some of the most incredible things, and we can talk about resources later. This couch I've had forever. It actually came off of Craigslist, and it has lived all this time in multiple houses. And the reason all my couches have blankets on them is because my dog runs my house. So it is possible to have great vintage stuff and animals, no problem. Just get yourself a blanket, throw it in the laundry once a week, boom, dog gone, right? So that's really great. Another flea market find, this strange painting called I Win, which is interesting. And this old lamp is also a vintage find from the Palm Springs flea market, another great one to check out if you get a chance, and some roses from my own garden. These things in the corner I want to talk about for a brief moment. So years ago, a friend and I were selling vintage at the flea market, and this amazing photographer man and his wife walked by, and he was carrying two of these. And I said, wow, those are so interesting. What are those? And he said, oh, it's wood that's been eaten by worms in like a river. And I said, I've never seen anything like that. And I moved on with my day. About 5 years later, I was shopping at the flea market and I found these. So I don't know if they're the same ones, different ones, but I love them. They remind me of elephant tusks, but not horrible. So I love them. So they're in the corner. I've had them for a long time. Here, some objects. Another flea market find, an old French 1940s burwood piece that I love. Had this for years. These old candlesticks that I got when I was in Italy once. And this amazing painting is one of a recent thing that I've got. Almost everything here I've had for a while, but this is relatively new. Love that landscape color, and I just think it's a beautiful mix with all the different tones that I have here in this room. So I also have this great old chair that I bought last year. It is covered in mohair, and it is very comfortable. For many, many years, the joke in my house among my friends and family was that I did not own a single comfortable chair. And now I do. So anybody who comes to visit can sit in this chair. Awesome. Sometimes vintage can be comfortable. Just got to look for it, okay? Also, a little bit here, an old 1950s Italian mirrored star that I love. And this very strange table that is actually Egyptian. Again, purchased at a flea market. It's some type of redwood or wood top with these crazy legs that remind me of Edward Scissorhands. So I love it. Or maybe Beetlejuice, one of the two. So love that. That's a great combo for me. Excited about that. And the last wall in this room is this one, which contains a couple of things that I really, really love. Number one, this great old mirror. For some reason, the top had been broken off, but I didn't know that. So I got it for $50, which I love. I've had it for probably 30 years. It's gone to every house with me, one of my favorite objects. Same thing with this great brass lamp. The shade and the light are brass, which I think is amazing. So the light only comes from underneath, really beautiful. Also a little collection of some vintage potteries and paintings and objects. This is actually from a local artist here in Southern California. That is amazing, and it's probably hard to see in the video, but maybe they can zoom in a bit. It's double-sided. So one side is this figural king, and on the back side, I'll just turn it around. On the back side is the king, I'm supposing, in death. So pretty fascinating sculpture, and I love it. The reason I put it in front of this mirror is so the only way to see the back is to be able to see it in the mirror, so that's pretty cool. Over again, an old bureau that I've had for at least 30 years. It weighs a ton. It travels everywhere with me. One of my favorite things, okay? So now we can check out the dining room. The process kind of how I've evolved into my style is just basically, I've always kind of conceptualized some sort of 1930s painter living in exile in Italy, right? That's kind of my vibe. So in that, 99% of the items in this house are thrifted or from vintage or antique stores. And obviously we have great flea markets here in Southern California. So my thing is, if I see something and it makes me really excited, I buy it. If I can afford to buy it and I love it. I don't necessarily need to know where it's gonna go. And some items I've had for 10 or 15 years that I've never used, and then suddenly I find a place for them. So if I love it, I get it. If it's affordable, it makes sense. The other great thing is, because so much of what I do is vintage and antique flea market inspired, I can take risks because I'm not spending a ton of money. So if I buy something and it doesn't work out, we can resell it at One Good Eye. I can resell it, in the market in general, but it's a great way to be able to take more risks because you're not spending a tremendous amount of money. So I've always found that to be a way that I can explore things that matter to me. I mean, the thing about my house is all the items here have traveled around with me probably for about 30 years, some of them. Some of them are newer, some of them I've had forever. But this is kind of a snapshot. Like today is a snapshot of where I'm at right now in my style. I've always just tried to surround myself with beautiful things because I think the world's a little challenging. And I like to look at beautiful things and be reminded that there's a lot of great people making beautiful, gorgeous things in the world, and I want to be part of that. Okay, so now we're in the dining room, another great spot, and a lot of vintage features, all the moldings, all the beautiful stuff that was already here. What I brought to this party was some other vintage finds and some more great art. So first of all, we have this incredible 1930s English barley twist table. This is from my incredible friend Jenny Moss from Found Rentals. She is also an incredible stylist and antique dealer, and she and I saw this table together. She had already purchased it, and again, talk about come around. 4 years later, when I was looking for a table for here, she happened to be getting rid of it. And so she was generous enough to let me buy it from her, and I love everything about it. The other cool thing that you probably can't see super great is this table completely folds down. So no matter where you lived in the world, this table could come with you. And I paired it with these old bent wood chairs that I've had for decades. I have a whole set of them, but I only have 2 of them at a time just for space. I don't generally have big dinner parties indoors. They're usually outdoors. And also it kind of reminds me of the album cover of Upstairs at Eric's. So I do love that. I've got this old weird trestled table. I'm a big sucker for trestled tables, old messed up tables. To me, they're beautiful. And these old green vases, again, from Pasadena Flea Market. And this crazy, amazing old Chinese box that has somewhat disintegrated, which I think is spectacular. I also want to point out the lighting. So I'm a huge fan of vintage lighting. I think vintage lighting is one of the easiest ways to transform a space instantly. This light above the table I brought to this house from Italy. And the reason it's got such an interesting color is it can only take a certain bulb that I had to also get in Italy. I also put in these German 1960s sconces that came from Etsy. And that's a great way, again, Etsy, any of these resources where people are seeking out lighting, vintage lighting all over the world, bring it to your house. It looks so great. And then finally, this painting is one of my all-time favorite paintings that I have. Again, a flea market find. The coolest part about it, we won't be able to see, which is on the back. Somebody wrote, "Do not enter, no trespassing," and then 1975, and here it is. So got that at the Long Beach Flea Market, one of the greatest flea markets you could ever visit, and just laying in someone's space. Same thing with the one on the other wall. Came from Long Beach Flea Market, so I kind of have them here together. Maybe they lived together in a former life, I don't know, but now they do here, so we love that painting. A lot of color in that one, good contrast to the dark black one. So how I originally got into vintage and antiques is really just, I had my first house, and I was thinking, now what, right? So I had always had apartments and lived in Los Angeles and was kind of had furniture that had been given to me or found on the street. And so, as you do when you're first getting started in the world. And so I started to think about just how I wanted to live and what made me excited. So that's how I got into it. I've been going to vintage and flea markets probably for the last 35 years. And not just in America, by the way. Whenever I travel, I always make it a point to go to a local flea market and I try to bring something home. So some of the objects in this house are from Europe, from Italy, from different places I have visited over the years. Career path-wise, obviously, it's kind of funny, but I always say it's not really hoarding if your stuff is cool. But realistically, vintage collectors are hoarders. That's reality. So I buy more stuff than I can use. I think it's beautiful. I love having it, even if it's for a short time. And then I started thinking about, could I pick some of these objects, put them together, and then let other people take them to their house? So that's kind of how the vintage shop One Good Eye got going. This is its second incarnation. It was up and running for a few years, and then we took a little break, and now it's back. But the great thing about it is that, again, it allows you to take risks, because if it doesn't work here, it'll work at someone's house. So career-wise, and that kind of exploration of vintage is just sharing that world with other people. And the other great thing that I'll say is I have had the greatest conversations over these last 35 years with people from the vintage world. I swear to you, the stories are unbelievable, and I love these people. So some of the folks at the flea market I've been seeing for decades, and they've always got a great story. The items and objects have a great story, and I just think it's a cool way to live. So to me, I'm kind of taking in a history of an object, putting my own stamp on it, I guess, and then when I'm gone, it'll move on to somebody else and they'll put their history on it. So I love that idea about handmade, vintage, beautiful things, and I'm just super excited to share them with other people. So that's the dining room. Now let's take a look at where I have coffee every morning with my dog. This is my little gallery room right off the garden, one of my favorite places to be. And this is where I read my news, read whatever, hang out with my dog, and drink coffee in the morning. Obviously, I have filled this with every great thing that I've ever found. A lot of cool stuff, vintage art mixed with prints, oil prints, carvings. I have some masks on the other wall we'll see. Really, in my mind, you can mix anything as long as you're excited about it and it makes you happy to look at. So I don't have any rules about collecting art. If I can afford it, I buy it. If I can't, I don't. But if I can afford it, I buy it, even if I don't know where it's going to be, just because I know eventually it'll mean something to me. Same thing on this wall, mixed some old figures that I brought back from the East Coast, an old mask, sketches, just odd, weird things. This is actually my most favorite thing in my entire house, is this painting of this person. It is amazing. I love it so much. It is Italian, but I found it in Los Angeles at the vintage flea market for 20 bucks. And I was carrying it around the flea market and people were like, that's the weirdest painting I've ever seen. And I thought it was the most wonderful painting I'd ever seen, because I feel like this kid's going somewhere, right? So I love that painting. I look at it every day. It makes me really happy. And right behind us, I did want to show you, so sometimes you think to yourself, what would happen if there were a fire? What would I take? Well, I would take my dog and I would take these two shelves. So everything that I truly cannot live without are in these two shelves. I've got a World War II picture of my grandfather when he served in the Navy. I've got a picture of my own father, who is a master mechanic and used to work on old vintage cars when I was a kid. I've got an oil painting of my mom. I want to share a little secret with you. Apparently in the 1950s, you could send a small picture of your daughter to a prison and they would return a beautiful oil painting. So would you do that today? Absolutely not. Did they do it in 1950? They did. And I have the picture to prove it. And then this is actually a picture of me, finally, at the March on Washington in 1993. A very important date in my life, a very important event, and I always like looking back and seeing where I've been, what I've been up to. I also, in this bowl, have Polaroids. I take Polaroids of my friends and family when they come over for dinner, and I always put them in this bowl. So whoever's been here, I just take their picture, my dog, my friends, and I just keep them in this little bowl. Also, this incredible old wedding photo of my parents, which I love. Also, all of my favorite books, and a couple of weird things. I like to collect religious sculptures. I used to have a lot more of them. I've kind of weeded them out a little bit, but I also collect old bears if they came from California, because I came from California, so I like old bears. And I want to also point out these odd things. So a few years ago, these mud builder wasps were making houses all over my property, and I thought they were incredible, so I started collecting them. And they sort of are like the most basic architecture, but super amazing. So even things from nature, like wasp houses, can become decor if you think the object is interesting. And again, if I didn't love them, I wouldn't have them, but because I do love them, I want them. So I just think it's a great way to display things you care about. Other weird things in here, just things I've collected over the years. They just make me happy to look at, which is why I like sitting in here every morning with my coffee. So my number one tip for flea market shopping is never walk away from an object you're considering. Put your hand on it and never let your hand come off it. Because there's people like me that will listen while you're negotiating, and when you get to a great price and then you walk away, I will step forward and buy it at that price. So I want to encourage you not to take your hand off an object while you're considering it. The other great thing I will say is get to know some of these vintage dealers. They all have Instagrams nowadays. They're on Facebook and different places. They know what you love, and if you get to know them on a personal level as friends sharing the vintage world, then they'll reach out to you when they find something that they think would be amazing for you. So again, the stories are incredible. The people are really fun. Get to know them, ask questions, admire their beautiful things. Even if you don't buy something today, in the future, they might have something that's perfect, that speaks right to you. And since you already know them, they'll save it for you. So that's my best advice is buy what you love. Ask for a deal if you can, but respect the item and how much hard work it is for vintage dealers to find and curate beautiful things, and get to know these great people so that you can bring their items into your house. All right, let's come through these cool old vintage doors. Let's check out the kitchen just to the left. All right, so the kitchen, again, such a great room and a great story behind it. When I first moved here, the floors were here. I don't know if they're original to the house, but they've been here for a very long time in this traditional checkerboard pattern of marble. So beautiful. The kitchen itself, though, had white cabinetry and a ton of upper cabinets. I felt like I didn't need all that space, and also I really wanted it to be kind of free and look a little more interesting to me. So the first thing I did was switch out all the cabinets. I took all the upper cabinets out and just left them out. No need for those, and I've got plenty of storage. I also swapped out, again, all the lighting is vintage, found on Facebook, the flea market, Pasadena City College, Rose Bowl, you name it, I buy lighting there. So I got a couple, and in fact, the light over the kitchen sink, which we can see in a moment, actually came from a house in Seattle, super interesting, and was shipped down here for me. The other great thing is, while I was renovating this room, I discovered some original beadboard in the ceiling, which led me to do the entire ceiling in beadboard. So that little discovery, that little excavation of something that was part of the house originally is what led me to expand on that and do the whole kitchen, thinking that was probably here originally and had been taken out at some point. Also, a friend of mine, contractor, was taking down an old house here in Southern California, and I was able to get some old wood beams to put into the ceiling to provide the transition between the beadboard and the walls. I love those beams. They just give a little bit of character. They look like the beams in the attic of this house, but now I wanted to expose them here. I also want to point out a couple of things. Good food. So I have had this good food sign. I bought it at Round Top in 1997, and it has been with me in every kitchen ever since. Now, I know sometimes things come in and out of fashion. Oh, people have signs, now they don't want signs. I will never not have my good food sign. It means something to me. It was an incredible trip with some amazing friends, and the fact that I got to buy it and keep it with me as a memory is really important to me, so I love that about it. I do also want to point out how you can just make things work that already exist. These cabinets are IKEA. They are not custom. I didn't have a big budget to go do a bunch of cabinets. So what I did was I painted them. And they've been here at least 25 years, way before I got here. And they were bright white, and I just wanted them to be different. So I used an old Benjamin Moore historical color. And as you may know, I'll share with you because I learned this, IKEA cabinets are plastic, and so there's some difficulty in painting them. But when I was on Reddit, when I was going to paint them, this woman came on there and said her boyfriend paints cars for a living, and they use a binder spray to bind the paint to the plastic on fenders and stuff. She gave the name of the product, which is just a spray adhesion. And so all I did was pop these doors off, spray them with this plastic adhesion, paint Benjamin Moore historic paint, boom, new cabinets, but I didn't spend any money. So that was pretty cool. So I do like that about it. Again, I like pottery. I like old things. So I've got a collection of some old salt jar, a sugar jar, old jugs. I always keep my kitchen silverware and stuff in these little crocks. Number one, if someone's over for dinner and they say, can I help? They can actually help because they don't have to look for anything. You could just say, sure, grab that silverware. The other thing is most of the time when I eat, we eat outdoors. And so I can just bring these out and set them on the table. So that's a really, really good thing. I love this old French print. It's a kitchen fruit bowl. So beautiful. I think it's about 1940. Again, a find from Long Beach Flea Market. And people bring great stuff like this all the time. There's never a shortage of great stuff out there. Over here in this corner, I wanted to point out, because we talked a little bit about having things that you love, whether you know what to do with them or not. This copper shelf I've had for 20 years. It's been in my storage and I just never used it. And then I moved here and it literally fit directly between these two things when I took out the upper cabinet. So I was like, I've got the shelf for that. So super excited. This is kind of my little workstation here. All the things you need. I said 99% of my house is vintage, and it is. The only things that aren't vintage are the appliances probably. But everything else I try to kind of stay in a vintage thing and just have some cool objects and a great painting and a really great card that a friend gave me for my birthday. And I loved it so much that I put it up here so that I can be reminded of that feeling. I also want to point out the old stove. So this is original to the house. I don't think it goes all the way back to 1925. I think it's a 1940s. So at some point they swapped it over, but this has been here ever since. An incredible old stove. It heats up really, really fast. It's awesome for cooking. The oven is about the size of a piece of paper. So if you're a big baker, probably not for you, but luckily I don't bake, so it's good for me. So I cook everything on the top only, but the ovens are really small. So kind of a funny thing about vintage stoves, but they're so beautiful, they're worth it. And finally in the middle, just needed a little island here, but didn't want to be crazy about it. So I have this old English library table, probably 1940s. It actually has built-in bookshelves on the side, so it'd be cool if they had cookbooks or something in there. I don't have that right now. Again, just some leftover pottery and bowls. If I'm serving dinner or a dinner party, I'd probably put all the food on here and all around and then just let people come and get what they need. And if there's an opportunity, one more great piece that I think makes great sense for storage in an old house, where storage is always a short. I just put an old hutch here in the kitchen that actually has all of my everyday plates and bowls in it. Just like the silverware, when someone comes over and they say, how can I help? It's really great to say, can you grab that silverware and can you grab some plates from the cabinet? They don't have to look for them, here they are. I also have a great collection of old white pottery. This is probably 1/10 of what I have, but I can only display so much at a time, so I try to pick pieces and put them up here. Just a great old piece from a great old shop that doesn't exist anymore, Bountiful in Venice, California. For those of you that know that shop, it was incredible. They had the most beautiful things. I don't think they're there anymore, but I'm super excited that I have this old hutch to remember them by. So that's a little view of the kitchen. Bluff Park, again, my neighborhood here in Long Beach, is amazing. It is filled with incredible vintage houses going all the way back to the Victorian era. We have 2 folk Victorian houses on this block. We have modern, we have modernist houses. We have some of the most major architects that were working in this period in this neighborhood. So it is incredible. Even to just walk your dog every day is amazing. But what's also amazing are the neighbors themselves. So we have a bunch of architects, musicians, we have some artists, we have a chocolatier who lives in the neighborhood. So there are just some incredible people here. Again, I find Long Beach really exciting. I lived in Los Angeles, I love Los Angeles, and I love Southern California. I've lived here my entire life. But the great thing about Long Beach is it's all about possibility here. People are incredibly supportive of your art, your music, your architecture, whatever it is you're doing, everyone here is cheering for you. And I really love that about Long Beach. I think it's got a can-do spirit and really accepting of all people. So I would probably never live anywhere but Long Beach, even though I hope to travel around as I've done and continue to travel. But this will always be home to me because I love the people. Okay, so now that we've seen the kitchen, let's check out my little home office. This room is actually an addition to this 1925 structure. I don't know when it was put in exactly, but it is great because it has closing French doors that replicate the vintage doors that are found in the house. And then it has this incredible view of my garden. So my garden is my happy place. It's where I feel the most at ease and peace. And it's nice to be able to work almost inserted into the garden. The other thing is, just like the rest of my house, I still think vintage has a place in a home office, because just because I need a computer and a printer doesn't mean I have to not look at beautiful things. So I filled it with some of my favorite things, big giant paintings, plein air paintings from California, again, flea market, this old French Gothic desk that I bought here in California probably 30 years ago. It's been in every office I've worked in ever since. And again, just paired with one of my dining room chairs. I love green, old matte green pottery, so I have a few pieces of that. This weird sculpture. And I also like to mix old stuff with new. So I do want to point out that we have Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber, which is my favorite film. And so I think we should all live like Lloyd. So I keep him here to remind me to just have a good time, because what else are you doing? And then a couple of other things. I do love this old French factory lamp. It was enameled at one point, which kind of wore off. It does still work, which is incredible. And then a really good friend of mine gave me this spine from Texas, an old cow spine, which I think looks very sculptural. So I've had that for years, along with this tiny little copper Indian, and actually kind of a Native American piece. It's an old bank from Nebraska, which I think is so beautiful, from 1930s. So I have that here, love that so much. And again, just got some art around and some great objects that keep me happy. So that's the little home office. All right, so now that we've seen the main house, let's check out the garden. All right, so now we're gonna check out what could possibly be my most favorite part of the house, which is the garden. So take a look. So the great thing about this garden is how new it is. I know it looks like it's been here forever, but really it hasn't. When I came to this house in 2020, COVID had just happened and everything was shut down. And I had some time to work on this yard. And this yard was all grass and cement because it had young children living here before I moved here. And so that served the needs of that family. But I really wanted to have trees and kind of a more romantic vision, especially since I've traveled a lot and seen a lot of gardens and wanted to live in a certain way, which is a really outdoor lifestyle. So I got to work immediately with an amazing friend of mine whose name is Mike MacGyver, who is a landscape designer, and he knew exactly what I loved, and he was like, let's do it. And so he helped me create what you see here today. And we can take a little bit of a look at some of the great features of this garden. One thing to point out is all of the trees, plants, and shrubs you see were brought here in the last 5 years. There were 2 giant cypress trees and a couple of old camellias, but other than that, everything you see was brought here in the last 5 years. And I only say that to give you hope that if you're just getting started on a garden today, don't worry about it, because in a couple of years, it's going to look amazing. So I think it's Martha Stewart who said, you know, if you want something that lasts a lifetime, plant a garden. And I will also say that when you do plant, at first it seems so small and you're like, I didn't get it right. And then as things grow, it's just a great place to be. So I love this garden. I spend most of my day out here. I sometimes work out here, and I definitely entertain my friends and family here. So I'm glad we have a chance to take a look. This area here, actually, the fireplace was here. So the people before me did a beautiful job with this old stone fireplace and this pergola that's above us. What I added to the picture are all the different plants, potted boxwoods, all these old roses and salvias, and some of this giant climbing rose, which I absolutely love, which is a David Austin rose called Lady of Shallot. So beautiful. It blooms practically the entire year, and I love it so much. I also have some vintage pieces out here. Again, outdoor vintage is a little bit challenging because you want to be able to sit in it, but I do have these old brown Jordan chairs, which I love, combined with some newer cushions and a table I found on Facebook. But a really great way to kind of add, it's not the primary seating, but it's great extra seating, and it looks super cool, so I do love that about it. Of course, a garden wouldn't be a garden without old pots and pottery. I bought this incredible pair of pots off of old Craigslist. They belong to a couple. Both of the men were set designers in Hollywood going all the way back to 1930. They died in their 80s, and this was part of their estate. And I am so thankful that I'm able to steward these into their future because they're so beautiful. They're cement. They are ridiculously heavy, but I love that they belong to people who deeply loved and cared about each other, and now I get to care about them too. So I do love that, and I love old pottery in general, obviously mixed with old terracotta and just weird stuff. I've been carrying this thing around forever. This came out of a church in Philadelphia. It is what you would put in the side of a building. It has a really cool hole in the back where they would put rebar through it to hold it into the bricks. I don't know why the church no longer exists, but there was a set of these at Long Beach Flea Market probably 25 years ago, and I bought this one because I thought it was so beautiful. The rest of these things, again, I like old building fragments, so we have some of that, and some newer furniture just mixed in so that we have a comfortable place to sit, right? Obviously covered in leaves because it's that time of year. This section is actually newer. I did this last year. There was a jacuzzi here that I didn't think was part of the garden for me, so I had it removed. We put in this stone walkway, and I'm adding in this Italian hydrangea rose kind of cypress garden. I'm hoping to find an old vintage bench. Again, I'm gonna always be on the hunt for what I want, and what I want right now is an old English bench. When I find it, it's gonna go right here. But in the meantime, I'm happy to grow roses for the house, hydrangea for the house, mixed in with some great jasmine and things that smell beautiful. In party time, I would probably set this up as just a second little seating area so that people can come out and enjoy themselves before they go to dinner, which we'll see in a moment. And again, we even have some citrus here. So I grow lemons in the citrus tree, little potteries, old weird things I've had forever. Again, I'm a big sucker for old potteries. Even if they're broken, I mean, if you've ever traveled to Italy or anywhere, when they break a pot, they just wire it back together. So that pot's been wired together for who knows how long. I'm into it. So anything old and kind of has some character and history, I think looks great in a garden. So I've added it here. Okay, so now let's take a look at where we eat dinner. All right, so here in the garden under this amazing oak tree is where we have dinner. So this is an old farm table that I brought outside, kind of Italian style, and I mixed it with these vintage Italian iron chairs. Cool note, because we're on gravel and Italians always are on gravel, old Italian chairs have these bars on the bottom which allows them to sit on gravel without the feet sinking in. So if you've ever wondered why are there bars on the bottom of those weird chairs, that's why. They don't sink in no matter how long you sit here. And trust me, we've had some pretty long dinners. Of course, I have string lights. No dinner would be complete without string lights. And the whole garden's lit pretty beautifully at night. The oak tree is one of the trees that I had brought here since 2020. It is one of my most favorite trees. Both this oak and the two sycamores in this dining area are native California species. That's important to me. That attracts hummingbirds, that attracts butterflies. It's a great way to celebrate California, which I love so much, by using native trees so that the environment is supporting those things. And again, nothing better than on a sundown underneath the sycamore and the oak trees, beautiful string lights, great friends and family, wine, chocolate, dogs, food. There's no better way to live than that. So I really try to have as many dinners here as I can, especially in the summer, and there's always room at the table for more. So if anybody wants to bring a friend, they bring a friend. It's just a great way to live, and I really try to incorporate this kind of vintage love I have even here in the garden. What I think makes a house a home is that when you go in, you're seeing someone's story. I really feel that everybody has a story, and I think sometimes we're afraid to tell it because we think that our story is not interesting, or we think that we're not unique, or we think that someone will say that what we love isn't interesting. But I think those are the very reasons to explore your own story, and that's kind of really what I've done. As I mentioned, if you're here today, this is a snapshot of where I'm at today. If I start loving unicorn mugs, I can assure you that if you came back to my house in 5 years, I would have a display of vintage unicorn mugs. So what I would say is, the best thing that any of us can do for ourselves, myself included, is just be who you are, be excited about what you're into, give people the opportunity to get to know you, and part of that is where you live. So to me, my house represents me, it represents where I've been, it represents dreams and aspirations, I guess, of mine, and it just represents cool people that I've met along this journey. I did want to say, because I had said it earlier and I will say it now, I don't think beauty costs more money, I just think it takes more time. The reality is, if you went in one day to furnish an entire house and I came into your house, all I'm seeing is where you were at that day. I'm not seeing your life and I'm not seeing the history. This is why I think you should take your time. Don't just buy things that matter, buy things that just make you so excited you can't stop thinking about them, or buy things that every day when you walk by them, you go, I can't believe I got to look at that again. Because that's how I live. I just don't have anything here that I don't love. And if I eventually grow out of it, then I sell it and I put something in its place. So I think take our time, create a house that represents our whole history so that people get to know who we are and what mattered to us. I think that's a pretty beautiful way to live. So that would be my advice on how I approach home.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sally. Welcome to my home in Cary, North Carolina. Come on in, I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Sally Nickel. I am a curator of vintage and antique home decor, and welcome to my home in Cary, North Carolina. We've been in this home for 7 years now. We actually had another home about a mile away, but we outgrew that home as we welcomed our third child. So we began to house hunt for a bigger home that would suit our needs, and we kind of took a huge leap of faith in the selling of our old home process. Went ahead and listed it with the agreement that we would need to rent back from whoever bought our house for up to 3 months while we house hunted. So, you know, most people that might be a little unsettling, but we really wanted to know the budget that we had to work with before we went house hunting. It was a little stressful here and there, but in the end, it did work out. We were able to rent back. We found this house miraculously within that time frame. That was 2018 when we sold our older house to purchase this house, and it was very much a seller's market then. So houses were going quickly, and so we were getting worried because we had lost out on maybe a house or two before this one came along. So when this one popped up on the market, we were like, okay, this checks all the boxes, so let's go all in as much as we can. We heard that this house had 26 offers on it after the fact. At that time, you could still write what I think you would call a love letter to the sellers, kind of telling them who you are, you know, what you love about their home, what you hope to do to it. We sent, I believe, our Christmas card photo with it. So I don't know if that played a factor in it, but we did get the house. It has a great addition that the former owners added, and that was the main selling point for us. We were originally looking for a home that had maybe a basement for some flex area for the kids, but this addition includes actually a full mother-in-law suite. So it has a bedroom, bathroom, kitchenette, and a living area and an exterior entrance. So when we saw that, we were like, this is even better than a basement, and that is kind of what sealed the deal for us on really wanting to make this our home. Welcome to our foyer. This didn't always look like this. When we moved in, we had a bank of closets and our HVAC system closet right here. So it was very narrow and very dark, and that was something that I knew that I wanted to change. And actually, something happened where our HVAC systems died, and that kind of started a whole first floor renovation, which I was kind of secretly glad about. So like I mentioned, it was very dark. There was just a little narrow walkway. So I loved the fact that we got rid of that whole bank of closets and created this nice open area. I always wanted to incorporate a great antique piece, and this is kind of like our catch-all, like hairbrushes, hair ties, things like that, last minute look before you go out the door. All of our shoes are in here, but I'm not going to open that for you right now. So this is kind of like our built-in little mudroom organizer, if you will, but I also wanted it to look pretty. And I just love to welcome people into our entry of our home with artwork that I've collected. I love seascapes, and that's just a great one that I found at an auction. This is Montpelier, the home of James Madison, our 4th president, and also where I went to school, James Madison University, and also where I met my husband. That has a lot of significance, and I'd love to take the kids to actually see Montpelier, his home, maybe this summer. But I also have a few other pieces. This is the Shenandoah Valley region of Virginia, which is where my husband's from, and again, where James Madison University is. I love that it is just a great antique painting that I found, and it perfectly complements the rest of the art. And I also collect these great 12 months of florals, framed pieces that kind of commemorate each month, and October is for my son's birthday. So I just love to display a unique collection. And over here I have a really pretty little mid-century piece that actually hung in the exact same spot in my grandparents' home. This is their piece, and it hung right beside their door. It's a little house blessing, and I just feel like that's a really sweet piece to incorporate. I also love to have a classic umbrella stand. I'm always measuring items for the things that I sell online. So I have a couple of measuring sticks and some fun little canes that I collect that the kids like to play with too. And also a great little just column riser to display florals or other unique little treasures that I find, and kind of switch those out seasonally. And of course, a little chair that we have if you are sitting here to put shoes on is always convenient. And I really wanted to incorporate some coastal texture, and I have this beautiful seagrass rug that was handmade, and you could get it in any size. I chose this as a runner for this space. It is surprisingly really durable, and I just love how neutral it looks and just gives a nice little element of texture to this space. One thing that we also did, because this home does have 8-foot ceilings, I wanted to make this ceiling in particular a little bit more fun. I do like monochromatic though, so I chose a very subtle monochromatic wallpaper to highlight just kind of the colors and the hues in here, and give a little bit of visual interest to the ceiling with not being too overwhelming. And for the doors, this house was built in 1986, but I love adding any sort of historical charm. So I love a good storm door. It lets in a lot of beautiful natural light, especially this house being so traditional, it doesn't get a ton of natural light on its own. So I'm always looking for ways to incorporate that. And even this front door, I just love the 2 lights at the top that peek through to this storm door perfectly. And I'm always asked this color. This is Elusive Green by Sherwin-Williams, but I knocked it down to 50%. And it's a great color that changes throughout the day, kind of goes from lighter to moodier at night. I also really love this cute little cast iron Westie doorstop because I have a Westie. She's often seen in a lot of my marketing photos. My daughters painted this for me. It was kind of a yellow and green color when I found it, and they brightened it up with white and gold at the bottom. This always serves a purpose because it's holding back our heavy door when I want to let a lot of the natural light in. This mirror that also serves as a little catch-all for bags and book bags and things like that. My husband made this for me. The wood is from my family's farm estate, dates back to the late 1800s, and I love that he incorporated the wood into this mirror and kind of upcycled it for me, so I have a little piece of my grandparents' estate. Welcome to our front living room. This is a space that most guests see as soon as they come in. I utilize this wall to do a floor-to-ceiling gallery wall. I'm always collecting artwork, and these are some of my favorite pieces that have stuck with me, never willing to sell them. You'll see that I have a lot of Audubons, a lot of kind of pastoral scenes, some coastal, some historical places, you know, where we've been in our travels and things like that. So most of them have some significance to us. Some of them are just the aesthetic that I loved. This is actually a Matisse, a real authenticated signature. This is a restrike, so the print is a restrike of the original, but his signature on there is the original, which I found at a thrift store when my husband and I were on an anniversary trip in Beaufort, and I just love this one. I believe it's called Elsa, and it's one of my favorite pieces on my gallery wall. This piano was actually a gift from a former neighbor on the street that we used to live. We were both moving at the same time. She was downsizing and retiring and moving to the coast, and she knew that we had young children and gifted this piano to us, which was really special. It had been in her family for decades. Actually, her mother did the needlepoint on the bench, and of course I just love it because it goes with the colors that I'm naturally drawn to as well. I love the fluted legs on it. And just the color of this piano is just such a pleasing, kind of a time-worn patina that I love. My husband and another neighbor literally wheeled it on dollies down the street while we were both in the process of crazy moving. I think we stored it in another neighbor's home before we moved into this home because it was just in the craziness of the move. But my kids have enjoyed taking lessons. They have kind of their own system with the painter's tape of labeling the keys, but I grew up playing piano as well, and so it's just a really nice special piece to have in here. Above it, this is a mirror that I found that incorporates faux bamboo, which I'm a huge fan of, and also the Greek key pattern. I love Greek key, and you'll kind of see that throughout some of the items that I collect and display. So this, I felt like, was the perfect statement to go above the piano. And again, I love just the natural color of it. A lot of people lacquer these, and I didn't choose to lacquer it because I just loved the natural look of it. This piece is a piece that I picked up in France just recently at one of the flea markets. It's a beautiful watercolor of Normandy. It was just on board, but I had it framed. But again, I love the colors of it and how complementary it is to the rest of the wall. Another item that I really love in this room is this pair of faux bamboo lamps. They're often attributed to the designer Dorothy Draper. I had seen one of the lamps at an antique store. It had been there for probably almost a year, but I wanted a pair. So every time I would see it, I'd be like, oh, maybe if I ever found the mate to it. But I happened to be looking on Facebook Marketplace one day, and I found another identical lamp. It was in Maryland. I explained to the lady, hey, I'm not a scammer, but will you ship this to me? And of course, I'll pay for the shipping. I found another one at an antique store, and I really want a pair. So she was kind of excited to help me match it up because they are kind of hard to find and collectible, and she packed it so well. And then I sent her a photo, of course, of the matching pair complete in their home. But they're a great neutral. I love the naturalness of the bamboo, kind of ties in with the caning on this love seat, and I just feel like they kind of go with everything, even if I'm changing things up seasonally. This love seat was another Facebook Marketplace find. It was, I think, maybe slightly damaged in shipping, and someone was selling it, but I knew it was the perfect length for this space. And of course, I loved the caned sides and kind of the light, airy coastal feeling of it. And this is a Thomasville coffee table that I picked up at an estate sale Originally, I was thinking it was going to be way too massive for this room, but I love the proportions of it actually, and we use it all the time. You can prop feet up on here. Kids are sitting here kind of doing their own thing around it sometimes. And the lightness of the marble, I feel like really kind of brightens up the room. Another just great staple piece, and I love that it's a classic brand that kind of stands the test of time. These are the chairs that I mentioned before. These are Maguire chairs. I found them in pretty rough shape. They didn't have any seat cushions, but I walked into a thrift store, saw these lines of these chairs, and I knew that they had to be something special. So of course I flipped them over and it said Maguire San Francisco on the bottom, and I was so thrilled because that is not a brand that you come across every day, and I love the natural color. This is a wrapped dried leather on these, and they are super comfortable. We use them all the time, and it's just a pair that I never see myself getting rid of. They're just classic, and I love them. When we first moved into this room, this wall was completely blank, and so I wanted to add a little bit of visual interest and to display even more pieces in my collection. So my husband actually built this entire wall of IKEA bookcases, and he custom built them into the wall. So it was a fun little project for he and the kids. I love anything coastal, so you'll see a lot of the coral. I picked these up at several different estate sales, and to find them this large is kind of rare. So displaying those, I feel like, just kind of balances out the coastal influence of the room. I love to collect books, historical books, a lot of art books and things like that, and usually I try to color coordinate them as well. And then just framing family photos that have significance, my grandparents getting married, me and my husband, and then a sweet little photo of my husband and my father-in-law, and then the same with my husband and my daughter. So I just love that this is one of the first things that you see when you walk into our home. I feel like my home style is a mix of three things. I feel like it's kind of coastal, kind of influenced by the chinoiserie style, and also cottagey, which is kind of a collected, cozy feel. So coastal style for me would be a lot of layering of textures like bamboo. I decorate with a lot of coral, just colors that are serene, blues, greens, whites, earth tones. I just am inspired by nature. I love a good seascape painting. And birds are seen everywhere in my home. For chinoiserie, I love the Asian influence of art, and I find that just so interesting. And a lot of that art actually picks up a lot of the coastal colors as well, which I love. And also blue and white and porcelain and transferware and things like that kind of fall into the chinoiserie style. And I would say cottage style is just kind of a sentimental collection. It's hand picking certain items to layer your home, to give it that cozy, memorable feel. Welcome to our kitchen. It did not look anything like this when we bought it. This was a complete kitchen renovation that we did in 2023. Actually 2022 into 2023, but we took down a wall. We had a wall in between where our range hood is and the table over there. It was a very small dining room. That room was kind of just a pass-through room to the addition before. It wasn't really usable. It also had no natural light because the doors of the addition were once windows, so those were removed. We actually added the doors to a side deck on that side just to add more natural light. But really taking down that wall has totally transformed this whole wing of the house and has really opened our kitchen up to have this great kind of long galley style kitchen. I really wanted to keep this portion, this wall of the kitchen nice and clean and limit the uppers, because this is the first view that you see when you come in through the front door or if you're sitting in the living room. So I wanted a nice big window that could look out to the deck and to the backyard, No upper cabinets because we decided to keep that all on this wall, which is kind of more utilitarian. And again, just another chance to have more wall space to display artwork and just keep it nice and open and flowing. I really wanted to go with an all-white kitchen, again, very monochromatic, because I feel monochromatic is really my thing. We chose a very subtle backsplash. It almost blends in with the wall color. This is Balboa Mist by Benjamin Moore, and I believe this is a Montauk Jen backsplash tile. And I just love that it's very, it goes together, it blends in without calling too much attention to itself. It's not something that I would grow too tired of over time, and still feels classic and fresh. We were actually going to do a totally different tile right here behind the cooktop, but as you know, when you're remodeling a kitchen, there are lots of decisions, and I was kind of getting a lot of decision fatigue. So I told my husband, I don't know, I think we should just go with the same tile. But he actually came up with this very nice geometric pattern where it differs over here, where you can use all of the same tile, but it adds just a little bit more visual interest to that side. So it worked out perfectly, and I love it, and we didn't have to break up the tile, and I just love how nice and clean it looks. He also custom built the range hood, which is just a clean and simple cottage style hood, which was what we were going for. Originally, we were not planning to have an island in this kitchen. We had considered maybe building something permanent, but that felt like it might have been too heavy. So once we completed the kitchen, for a long time we lived without an island. So we had this really large open space. Once we lived with it for a while, we thought, well, maybe it would be nice to have something, as a go-between between the refrigerator and to this other counter space. So I actually found this table at a Habitat for Humanity restore. It was $20. It did not have the marble top, but I thought that size looks like the perfect proportions for our kitchen. So I'm just gonna take it home, try it out. So we had it in here for months, and then we said, yep, I think this is the right size and the right look. So our local stone yard cut this beautiful marble top, which is an exact match for the quartz, but I liked that it had a little bit of contrast to the quartz between the marble. So we use this all the time. And when we have guests over, we clear this off, and it also becomes a little serving station. I've added these really cute little Scandinavian style stools that I found at a secondhand shop. And our kids will often sit here and have cereal or have breakfast. And I love that these just tuck under here so well and add a little bit of warmth to the space with their color. Yeah, this was a happy kind of find that really pulled the kitchen together. This is the more utilitarian side of the kitchen. It's kind of hidden from the front door and the front room, but we have, all of our appliances on this side, and this, is kind of like the main hub of the kitchen, if you will. It's always busy over here, but I love how clean it looks. We decided to kind of go central with the big appliances and then fan out and have some counter space on either side. And my husband designed the layout of the cabinets and the installation. He is a wonderful carpenter and engineer, so very fortunate that he was able to do a lot of the work in this kitchen himself, and we love how it turned out. This kitchen had a very small peninsula before the remodel, but we decided to extend it to try to achieve an island-like feel. This serves a great purpose for the kids. This is kind of their hangout zone, drop zone in the kitchen. This seats 4, and we have 3 kids, so it's the perfect amount of space. And sometimes if we're not having a family dinner at the table, they'll eat here, and having this large of a space right here really serves us well. Right next to our peninsula is another dining spot, and this is an antique farmhouse table. We acquired this secondhand, and my husband refinished it. We bought it from someone who had had it in their family for generations. They felt like it dated to the late 1800s, and you can kind of see some of these nap joints and things like that that suggest that. But I loved the longer length of it and that it would really fill this space nicely. And of course, it is great to have another table here that kind of mirrors our dining table over there. Just adds even more seating options when we have company. So this is what used to be our formal dining room. There was a wall right here. So it was very small, but now that the wall is down, our dining room table is just in the kitchen, which I think adds a little bit of charm to the space. This table is a faux bamboo, something again that I collect. This is a Dixie brand table, and I love that it has the glass top, which is pretty easy to clean with kids and whatnot. My husband refinished this in this great sagey green color. It's called Ancient Marble by Sherwin-Williams. And these are the coordinating McGuire chairs that my mom found for me that coordinate to the lounge chairs that are in our living room. And I just love these. I love the color and the style of them. They're nice and wide and comfortable. And they fit perfectly around this table. I did choose to do 2 different head chairs just to break it up a little bit. And again, it also has a little bit of light airiness, coastal feel to it. The rug underneath is a beautiful needlepoint rug actually. And it is like the exact same size as the table, but I didn't really mind that because we are dealing with different kind of rooms here, so it kind of keeps it all nice and contained. And I just love the fact that it's needlepoint and it's something a little bit more unique and different. And it was again a secondhand find, so I'm not too worried about it, you know, being under the table, but it's held up beautifully so far. This is a beautiful Indian tree pattern, which I use when we have guests or for holidays. It's just a really pretty pattern that I love the colors of, and so any chance I see it at an estate sale or an antique store, I tend to just buy more pieces to add to my collection. This is a Capiche shell chandelier. It is from West Elm, so it's more contemporary, but I loved the coastal aesthetic of it, how it's a little bit more unexpected, it brings in just that great natural quality. And this piece here is a really great, super functional piece. I use it daily. Now, most people would probably use this as a server, and it would probably be smart of me to keep my silverware and plates and everything in it, but I use it for my business. So this is where I stash a lot of my treasures and things like that. It helps keep me organized. It is a wonderful tiger oak piece. It's an antique, and I found it at an estate sale a few years ago. This was actually one of the last things left in the house. I couldn't believe it that it was still there. Usually on Sundays, it's half price day, so it was the last day of the sale, it was half price. It was on the 3rd floor, and I think that was the catch. No one wanted to bring it down, but it was such a great deal, and it was such a great piece that I said, I'll be back with my husband, I will purchase this, and it just happens to fit beautifully between these 2 doors, which the 2 doors didn't exist when I bought this piece, but since we added them, it's just the perfect little piece for this space. And I always love to decorate it. I change this somewhat seasonally. The mirrors are pretty constant. I like to layer things. I feel like that adds a little bit more visual interest. And white wicker, I've always had a fondness for. Childhood bedroom in the early 90s. My mom and I decorated it with a lot of white wicker and a lot of Martha Stewart for Kmart line. So that very much reminds me of my childhood. And of course, I just love anything with the woven texture. I think it blends so beautifully, even with an antique piece such as this. And usually I'm displaying a ginger jar of some sort. This is one that I just recently acquired Love the color of that, especially for spring and summer, the beautiful coral color. And this is probably the best piece of coral that I ever found at an estate sale. I'm even surprised that it made it home in one piece because I literally put it in a tote bag with other things in there. But I love that piece, and it's pretty much a permanent fixture right here or on another buffet table that I have, but it's one that I really love to display. Here on either of these walls, you'll see that I have two sets of artwork. These are beautifully hand-colored French lithographs, which I just love the large scale of, and it has a coordinating one on that side. And then we also have some French watercolors. These were both picked up at different spots, but I loved how they coordinated with each other. So these are kind of permanent here as well. I don't often find myself changing these because I just love the serene colors of them both. I also did just this wall in a nice little accent wallpaper. Again, very subtle, very monochromatic. That's kind of my theme. And I think it just adds a little bit of visual interest. It really picks up the Balboa Mist wall color and the Greek Villa white. And I just love that it adds a little bit of interest and texture to the space. Welcome to our side porch. This also didn't exist when we first moved into this home. This kind of came about in the need for natural light in that dining room before we renovated it because there were no windows. It was so hard for me to decorate that space. So I said to my husband, what if, and the what ifs kind of led to this, what if we added windows to bring in some natural light? But then that turned into what if we added doors that led to another beautiful outdoor space. This side of our house, since there were no windows on the bottom of this side, we didn't have access to this beautiful mature greenery that's evergreen year round. So it's really nice that now we feel like we have a whole extra portion of our yard too that we're able to enjoy at all times just by the view from the kitchen and the dining area. So my husband built this whole deck himself and the pergola. He is 10 times more talented than I am in decorating. He is in carpentry and design, and it was just a sketch and then he brought it to life. It's just a beautiful space that we love to enjoy the porch swing. We love to have like a little, quick bite out here at this little bistro table. I love to see the kids like running on this path. Like I can just see their little heads bobbing when I'm in the kitchen, so it's kind of funny. But I love that this just adds so much more character to the outside of our house, especially from the curb view. It adds a great bit of curb appeal to it, and it's just another beautiful outdoor space that we get to enjoy. Okay, welcome to our family room. This is our sunken family room. You take a couple steps down from the kitchen area. We use this room a lot in the winter because of the fireplace, but this is also kind of a throwaway for the outdoors to get to the screen porch in the backyard. The kids are often playing in here. They have a little mini trampoline and gymnastics that is usually set up in here, so it's kind of a nice little rec room for them as well. Again, I've kept a lot of the colors very coastal here. You'll see that some of the artwork reflects that and the colors in this room. I love the woven. These are Thomasville, a pair of vintage Thomasville end tables, and I chose to keep them this natural color just because of the wonderful warmth and texture that it brings and kind of goes with the rest of the furniture in this room. This is probably the best thrift store find that I've ever acquired. These are the set of the 4 Asian story panels, and I wish I knew a lot more about them, but I don't. I do believe that they're hand painted, but I just was drawn to the scale of them for one, and of course the imagery and the colors, and it just has a lot of soul to it, and I just felt like it kind of energized the room. And again, the perfect size, the scale to go over a sofa. The sofa is a great North Carolina made sofa that I acquired secondhand. It was in great shape. I loved the color of it, the herringbone texture, and it's super comfortable and super well made being from North Carolina. And these chairs are actually more Meguiar chairs that I just recently found on a trip to Florida. I saw them posted on Facebook Marketplace. I suspected that they were Meguiar, but the seller wasn't really sure. And I guess they just didn't want to take time to look for the stamp. I think they were in storage, but I took a chance and I said, okay, let me meet you and let's take a look at these chairs. And I was so thrilled to see the stamp that they are in fact Meguiar. They date to the 1950s and they have a great canvas wrapped back and seat. And I just love the natural look of these, and you know, it has a nice casual look as well, which is perfect for this family room. So these were a very lucky find, and I just love how they look in this room. The built-ins and the fireplace are one of my favorite features of this room. The fireplace was not white when we bought it. It was a really dark brick. So I did decide to brighten it up by painting it, and I love that decision. Not everybody loves painted brick, but I feel like it really brightened this room, especially being that it was kind of a darker room to begin with. Even though it leads to the screen porch, we don't really get a ton of natural light in this room. So anything that I could do to brighten it up, I was just trying to lift it a little bit visually. And on the bookcases, you'll see that I have a lot of blue and white displayed, things that I've collected. Usually these are things that I pick up on trips or things like that. The large Indian tree, blue and white, was a piece that I found in a really great antique store in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I love to pair it with ironstone for some contrast, the white ironstone. I always think that's like a classic look that always looks nice on a shelf. And again, layering in family photos, some sentimental pieces. I think framing something that's a little bit unexpected sometimes adds some interest. And this is a handwritten recipe of my grandmother's. So I love to see her sweet handwriting and love how that looks as a piece of art. And over here, I have kind of mirrored the same. Blue and white is another theme on this side as well. Blue willow is a classic pattern that my mom collects, and I love having some of her pieces. This is one that she gifted to me. And my mom is actually from such a small town that she still knows everyone. So this plate right here was a gift from her second grade teacher. So she is still in contact with people like that. And so she gifted it to me to become part of my personal collection, and I just love little mementos like that. And again, I've flanked it with more natural texture in the baskets and coordinating with some of the white, like the milk glass lamps and the dried hydrangeas. On our fireplace, I have a wonderful, just thrifted English print. I loved the colors of it. I felt that it was so serene. At one point, I had a mirror here, and it was, I didn't love the look of that. It was too reflective of everything going on in the kitchen. So I love that this kind of just gives your eyes a place to rest. And I have flanked it with some pewter candle holders. And the ribbons were actually left over from Christmas. I had decorated the mantle in blue this past Christmas, but I felt like it was such a cute little charming touch that I decided to leave the ribbon. And this piece is also a special piece to me. This again came from my grandparents' estate, the one that dates back to the late 1800s. This was a walnut beam that came from their barn, and my husband has cut it to fit and installed it as our mantle. So it's a very special piece to have on display in this family room that connects me with that special place. The fireplace screen is a great little piece that I found at an antique store, and I love that it's freestanding. It has a slight bevel design to it, and it really looks beautiful when the fire kind of flickers behind it. and it wasn't quite the right height for the firebox. So again, we've elevated it on that same walnut wood. I have tried so many different rugs in this space. I've had wool, I've had jute and sisal, and because it is kind of a main gateway to our outdoor space, the kids were always tracking things in on it, and it was impossible to keep that clean. So I've actually switched to a ruggable. This is one of the great washable rugs, and I love it because it really brightens up the space. I don't have to worry about my kids tracking mud in all the time. And it's cushioned underneath, so it's a great soft landing when they're doing gymnastics and things down here. And I just love that it kind of has even a vintage aesthetic for being something that is a newer piece. This is a great little secretary piece. I just love the patina on the wood. It's a warmer wood, and I liked that about it. I store a lot of photos, correspondence, stationery, stuff like that in here. And of course, again, another place to display pictures and art above it. This is actually a painting that my daughter did when she was 10. She was watching a lot of YouTube videos. I believe this was a maybe Miss Mustard Seed video, but Miss Mustard Seed painted this exact same painting, and my daughter took the tutorial and did this, and I just loved how it turned out. It's a sweet little seascape, and I thought she did such a great job. I love this little piece. I found it at the Raleigh Flea Market years ago. It's been in our last house, it's been in this house. I just always find a spot for it. It's great. We can pull it out a little bit further when we have, more people over, if we're playing games or something like that. I love, again, the patina to the wood. And this was actually the original upholstery that it came with, and I've always just found a way to make it work with the current room based on pillows and things like that. But I love the lines of it, and I just think it's a cute little antique piece that doesn't look stodgy and can work with a variety of decor. I started this business actually when I was newly pregnant with my first baby. I was in between marketing jobs at that time, and it was very stressful to find another job while I was pregnant. So my husband and I just decided that we would just take it easy until the baby comes and then make a move. But in that time, I was decorating her nursery, and I've always loved vintage things, so I would kind of go and hunt for perfect little vintage pieces to really make her nursery unique. So we finished her nursery and all of that, and we just found that we really loved that as a hobby. So we started refinishing vintage pieces and selling them. And while I was also hunting for the perfect furniture pieces, I would find all sorts of great decor and smalls and things like that. And I started staging it with the furniture pieces, and eventually those smaller items became what was more in demand, and actually what I love to source as well. I love to hand select things and style them. So that's kind of how it found me, and I feel very fortunate. I never went back to a full-time advertising job, because over the last 12 years, this has really picked up as a full-time business for me. So I feel super fortunate that it worked out that way, because I would have never imagined that this could be a full-time job for me. But it's just something that my mom and I share a passion of. We love to decorate, and I think it's just kind of been how I was raised too. She was always a bargain hunter. She is a bargain hunter, and that's kind of been passed down to me. My grandmother was the same way. So we would often go to thrift stores, yard sales, things like that. And I think that that shows you that you can also buy above your means sometimes. What you find at a secondhand store can be really wonderful, and it's almost like a treasure hunt each time you go. And I think that's really the thrill of it for me. I just love, going into a store not knowing what sort of treasure that you might walk out with. Now I'll take you into the addition area of our home, and we've nicknamed this whole wing of the house the Cottage. So that's what we refer to it as. And this is a great space that allows us to close off this wing, or just have it as versatile as we need it. This space is a great little butler's pantry. I kind of use it for storage of my decor for my business. This sweet piece is a cute little sideboard, again, that I found at an estate sale. And I felt like it was the perfect spot right here to store some things again for my business. And the French doors have just enough space to clear this, which my husband sometimes disagrees with having this piece here, but I personally love it. And it gives me a space to have a little vignette above it with the mirror and the plates on the wall. This is also our dog's feeding station. I found this cute little acrylic dog food feeder on Amazon, and then I added my own little blue willow bowls with it. So even the dog has a little aesthetic blue willow spot. But again, this is super functional little space, even though it's small, and it has great storage. And I love the character that the French doors gives to this space. This is the kitchenette in the cottage, and this is a great little prep space for my husband. He loves to grill, so this is often what he uses as his prep kitchen, and then it has a full fridge right here. But I love the natural light from the outside right here, and of course this living area is surrounded by windows, and that was one of the great selling features of this home too, was just the beautiful view of our backyard that you can see on all three sides. This space is the living space of the cottage, and this is actually our main family hangout room. This is our TV room where the kids play video games, other games, things like that. This is the only room in our house that is vaulted. So even though the footprint of the room is small, the vault and the windows make it feel nice and light and airy. And this space, for being somewhat small, like there's a lot of living that goes on in it. We always kind of have guests over in this portion of the house just because of the easy access to the backyard. And so it's just a great place to hang out and relax. And this is where you can always find my kids hanging out and my dog. This is a great room. I love how light and open it is. My husband actually added the beams and updated the fan to a beautiful white and gold fan last summer. We added this cute little ledge above the window seat just to give a little bit more character to the space, and of course another spot to decorate. I love to showcase more blue and white up there, coral, books, and kind of give it a fun little library feel with this perfect little reading nook right here. It's just a great lookout to the backyard. The kids love to sit there, play with the dog. The dog is always in that spot on squirrel patrol. I just love how this is the main focal point of the room, and so I really wanted to try to dress up this spot. You'll see that I've added some wallpaper to this spot as well, just a little bit for visual interest that kind of ties into the textiles in this space. And then I love how you can introduce artwork in unusual spots. So I've added this restrike of a Picasso painting. This one's called Blue Boy. I love how the blues in this room all really go together. So I love to mix old and new. This is a great vintage council chair, armchair. It has a really regal look to it, and I love that it has the playful buffalo check to kind of lighten it up a little bit. A more contemporary, this is a Martha Stewart swivel chair that my kids love, but I loved the color of it. This piece is actually a really great apothecary style piece that I found secondhand, and I personally refinished it, so it's not the best job, but I kind of love that it looks a little bit distressed as well. This color is Benjamin Moore's Metropolitan, and I just love the serene hue of it, and this provides a ton of storage of board games, books, Legos, things like that. And it's a large piece, but I feel like it works in this room really well. I really wanted to make this room feel nice and cozy, even though it is very open and bright with the windows. So to do that, I hung some woven Roman blinds. These are actually from a company called 2 Pages, and the curtains are as well. And the drapes are a nice linen mix with a French pleat at the top, which I think just adds a really nice refined touch to the space, but also makes it feel nice and cozy. My children always pull the shades down when they're watching TV or whatnot to reduce the glare, but I love the option to just enjoy the beautiful view, or if you needed more privacy or reduce the glare, you can pull those down as well. I chose not to do drapes on this wall just because we have a lot going on with the wallpaper and all of the pillows and the window seat. So I left that a little bit cleaner so I could decorate it a little bit more. These are some great fun prints that I found on a trip with my mom to Maine. I loved that they have these little nautical sea creatures, and you have the coastal birds, and I have chosen some others over here from that same series to frame. It's just a great memento from that trip to Maine, and also ties in so well to the beautiful nature and coastal aesthetic that I love so much. I've paired it with Wedgwood plates in the middle to bring in another little extra pop of visual interest. As you can see, I really love decorating with plates. I love this Asian scene. It's a wonderful old textile that I purchased secondhand, and it had been in someone's family for a long time. I updated the bamboo frame with a nice gold tone to it, but I love just the aesthetic that it brings to the space. It's really serene, and I think it works beautifully in here. This is one of my favorite pieces in the room. It's a antique Victorian burnt bamboo corner chair, and these are a little bit harder to find. I just love the way that it's built and made, and all of the little bobbins I think add such visual interest, and this burnt bamboo is harder to find these days, so I love that it fits perfectly in this little nook right here. I feel like I have several items that I really just never see myself letting go of that I've found, even though some people may see them in my shop just in the background, and I always get lots of inquiries about them, but I'm kind of feeling like, no, I feel like their forever home is right here with me. Most notably, I found some great McGuire lounge chairs, which are highly collectible. It's made of like a rawhide leather. You don't come across them often anymore, and ironically, my mom also found the matching dining chairs to those lounge chairs, which I now have as well, which was just an amazing lucky find. And I also have come across some beautiful Asian chinoiserie style story panels that are quite large that hang above our sofa in our den, and there's just a presence about them that I just love, and I never see myself getting rid of those. But I knew once I walked in a thrift store, that's where they were, that they were going to come home with me, and so I love what they bring to our home. Welcome to our first floor guest room. I love that this room is just a serene spot for our guests to relax in. I went very light and of course monochromatic in here with the wall color and just a very, very subtle wallpaper. But then I also blended some darker accessories such as the paintings and the mirror over here. I liked the balance of the light and airiness, but with the moodier artwork. Again, I've also tied in some natural textures with the fan that's wrapped in the caned accent piece, and then the bamboo shades that are super functional. They're blackout, so that provides some nice privacy. The bed is an antique that my husband and I refinished. This was one of the first projects that we did for this house because I found a great dark, this was very dark frame, but we wanted to lighten it up quite a bit. And it's actually a full-size bed, but he converted it to be able to fit a queen-size bed. So this is a super functional, just pretty space for our guests. Again, I have found some antique lamps that coordinate nicely with it, as well as the petite scale of the nightstands, which is just what's needed in here since it's not a very big space. But I feel like it's a very relaxing retreat that Also looks out to the landscaping and our side deck over here, so it has a nice little view as well. This is a great little marble top chest. I painted this piece myself and updated the hardware to this antique brass bail pull, but I love that it's nice and compact and doesn't overwhelm the space. It's just the perfect size for a guest room. And you'll see that I also have another faux bamboo mirror. Again, this is the similar finish that my living room mirror has, where it's just the original pale yellow color, which I love the natural look of and felt like it tied in beautifully with the other furnishings of the room. A great little chinoiserie style lamp that had this fun little tassel on it, and I just love the little pop of color with it. And I always like to include a little dish as kind of a catch-all for keys, coins, wallets, things like that. So this is the adjoining ensuite bathroom to our guest bedroom. Something that's unique about this space and the bedroom is it was designed for handicapped accessibility. So you'll see that the door frames are extra wide from the bedroom and to the bathroom. We have a spot that could be handicap accessible here, which I've chosen to furnish with an extra chest for more storage. We updated this bathroom a few years ago. Everything was original to when it was built in 1995. So I was hosting my sister-in-law's baby shower a couple of springs ago, and I wanted to quickly update it since this would be the primary bathroom that guests were using off of our backyard. So I chose this great little budget-friendly marble-topped vanity from Home Depot, and we quickly replaced the linoleum with some vinyl plank flooring. Eventually, I would love to tile this floor and tile in the nice shower that we have here. But again, it's we've updated it to kind of flow with the rest of the guest suite, and I love that it has a little bit of natural light. Now that has a privacy film on it because you would be looking directly at our swing set if not. But I love that it lets a little bit of light in, and the way my husband installed the vanity and the lights adds a charming little touch to it. I think the key thing about vintage and secondhand shopping really is repetition. It's not that I go into a thrift store and come out with, basketfuls of treasures each time. It's really just the repetition of going and seeing what you can find. Some people have the patience for that, like myself. Some people do not, and that's totally understandable. For me, the thrill of the hunt is just the best high. I don't feel like I ever have to run a marathon because I can go into a thrift store and get that same high when I find like a really amazing treasure, or an antique store too. It's just thrilling for me. Another great tip when you're looking to add a collected look to your home is to shop your own family's homes. So ask your mom or your grandmother, what sort of things do you have that you're no longer using that I may want to use in my home? It's just a great way to add some sentimental values and memory to your home, and also to have a family heirloom. Even if it's just a little trinket, it's really special to incorporate from generations past. Welcome to our screen porch. This is such a great outdoor room that we just love. We use this almost 3 seasons, especially in the fall and the spring. It's really nice to have these doors that open up to our family room and just kind of enjoy indoor-outdoor living. This is a great little seating area, and it's plenty of room for friends and family, and we're often, out here on summer and fall nights. I especially love this room when it rains. I love to come sit outside with a cup of tea and just watch the rain. But I also love to kind of bring some outdoor into this space and display some of my plants here. And of course, another opportunity to decorate with blue and white and make a little outdoor vignette here as well. I love kind of decorating an outdoor space almost like you would an indoor space, like the use of rugs, even layering rugs. We have some oversized furniture that feels nice and comfy and cozy. I also love to bring a coffee table that wouldn't traditionally be an outdoor coffee table into this space. So this is a little vintage mirror-topped wooden table, but it also works just as well outdoors, and almost creating like a living room outside, especially with a little outdoor lamp and a woven bar cart that is great for extra storage and things like that for entertaining. And it's just a great space to gather in. This is the original deck to the house, and then the former owners added the screen porch and the cottage addition. But I love that it creates almost like this little courtyard area of a deck. It's so charming, and when we first moved into this space, my husband hung these little cafe lights, and this little spot just felt so magical, like almost Parisian-like. I love to decorate this space with ferns and garden stools and even mirrors. I have several outdoor mirrors around that just kind of help bounce light around everywhere. And my husband has his grill over here that he'll bring out, and he loves his setup here, so it's convenient to the cottage kitchenette to do all of his grilling out here. This table, when we are entertaining, we often take it into the backyard so we have more room to spread out. But again, this kind of serves as like a little prep station when he's out here cooking. This is our cute little stone path. The former owners had the stone, but we recently had it all reset and permanently put in with gravel in between. And it leads to this beautiful little fire pit area that overlooks our backyard. But the stone walkway continues to our driveway, and then there's an identical one on the other side of the house. And I just love this charming cottage-like little detail, and I feel like it adds a lot of interest to our backyard. And at night, when it's all lit up with the cafe lights around the perimeter of the yard, it looks especially charming. Home to me is a place that you can be yourself and feel that you are rejuvenated by being in that space. I always try to create a home that feels cozy and comfortable for my family. I also feel like I'm always trying to recreate memories from my childhood, whether that's from my parents' home, my childhood home, or my grandparents' home. And it's just really important to me to kind of infuse that into our home. I feel like decorating with vintage, even though if those objects aren't the exact same that your parents or grandparents had, I feel like it's almost like taking a whiff of perfume or cologne. And when you see that item, it instantly brings you back to that memory. And I just think that there's something so sweet and special about that, and that's just what I try to create in my own home.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Rachel. Welcome to my home in Winona, New Jersey. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Rachel McCauley, and I live in Winona, New Jersey. I'm a kindergarten reading teacher, and I'm also a photographer and a thrifter. We have lived here just about 9 years. It'll be 9 years next month. And we've actually lived in this town for about 20 years. We moved here in 2004, and we lived in a small brick rancher that was just about 4 blocks away. And we lived there for 12 years, and we loved it. We had all of our children there. But before we had kids, we would ride our bikes past this house, and I would tell my husband, like, slow down, slow down. Let's look at that house. I love it so much. And I truly believe that I manifested this house for us because we loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the porch. I saw us having a family here. I saw our kids here. I saw, my kids going to prom and taking pictures outside. I saw just our life actually being played out right before us. So it sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. And this house went up for sale and we jumped on it. And so here we are. Welcome to the parlor. So when we moved in, the bottom cabinets were here, and I believe they were cream or white. And I just knew that these empty sides were just screaming for more shelving. So we had a carpenter come and build these shelves for us that go almost all the way up to the top. We have 12-foot ceilings in our house. So the whole downstairs has 12-foot ceilings in this beautiful molding that I love and didn't want to touch. So we had these shelves put in, and now they display all of my favorite things. So my father is also a photographer and gave me all of his antique cameras. So those are displayed here. And let's see, we also call this the music room. We have a lot of musically inclined people in my family, not me, but everybody else is. So we have some musical instruments in this room and some artifacts that I have up here on the shelves. We have family photos that I love. This is a picture of my husband's grandmother, who I loved, Nanny. And this is my mother-in-law here. And I just love this picture. It just reminds me, she looks like a movie star sitting on a park bench in Central Park. But I just love this picture, so we keep this in here. We also have a record player here that I got for my husband's 40th birthday. And then over the years, he's either taken records from his dad's house or I've thrifted them, and we've built up quite a collection. If you come in here any time of the day, you might hear a record on, most likely Stevie Wonder, my favorite, or Otis Redding. We love to sit in here at night, especially in the winter months when it's cold, and play records, have a cocktail. We have the fire going, and it's just a really cozy room, and I think the black built-ins have really grounded the space and also drawn your eye up so you could really appreciate the height of the room. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the fireplace because I recently learned that this is a cast iron fireplace that was painted to look like marble. So it's faux painted marble. And apparently this was really big in Victorian times. And I love the black, and it has some brown swirling throughout it. It was converted to gas. I'm not sure when, but it's so nice to just click a button and have a fire. We really appreciate that. And so this was my inspiration for using the black built-ins in here, and then also throughout the house to have those black pieces to kind of ground the space. On this side, we have a little mini bar, which makes it convenient, like I said, for cocktails. And then just some more pieces that we love. These are silhouettes of my 3 children when they were little. This is a picture of my grandfather next to his car. I don't know when this was taken, but I just love this little picture of him. And he loved racehorses. He had a few over the years, and when he passed, my mom gave me this little ceramic horse of his, so I put that in that cloche so I could remember him with his picture next to it. More antique cameras, and then I don't know if you can see up there, that's my husband's great-grandfather. He used to play the accordion, so he was in a big band, and then that's a picture of him by himself with his accordion. So this piano over here is an antique from my grandparents' house. When my aunt was moving, they didn't want it anymore. No one else wanted it, actually. So my husband and I rented a U-Haul and drove to their house in Maryland, a few hours away, to go pick it up. And we absolutely love it. All 3 of my kids have taken piano lessons on it. One of these days, I'm going to take lessons. I swear to it. But in the summer, I love to decorate it with family photos, especially, like I said, at the beach. And at Christmas, I display all of my kids' Santa photos that are always so fun to look at. We also have some guitars in here. My son plays the guitar and my daughter's ukulele. The bottom of the built-ins, I have lots of photo albums. We'll take those out and look through them whenever we can. My husband is a drummer and has been since he was really young. So you'll see throughout the house we have bongos. Upstairs in his office he has his drum set. And our coffee table, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in here, but I ended up finding a piece that is kind of modern, but I like, that it's the opposite of everything else in here. That's antique. And it's just a great place for us to do puzzles in the winter, but also to display some of our favorite things. So right now, we're set for summer. This is a big shell bowl filled with all the shells that we've collected on family vacations. And I like to keep little boxes to hide things, like I said, remotes and things like that. So this is how I have it displayed right now, but it will change constantly, probably every month. In this room, one of my favorite things is this chandelier. When we moved in, it was just like a basic brass chandelier. It was pretty, but I felt like it needed something else in here. So we found this at an antique store down at the Jersey Shore, down near Cape May. This is a Moroccan pierced metal lantern. And I just love the way that it casts the light in this room. We usually have it dimmed, and it just looks so beautiful at night, the way it reflects off the walls. But this was a nice piece, and I thought it added a little unexpected charm to this room. Like I said, my style is very traditional, classic. I love leather, I love dark wood, and so this couch is just a leather sofa that we picked up probably 20-ish years ago. It's held up great, it's classic. The older it gets, the better, and it's super comfy. Over here I have an antique lamp that I found, and this black shade. I love black shades, and I love when they have the gold inside, because I feel like it really makes a beautiful golden glow at night. And then these are two of my favorite chairs. I get asked often about these chairs on Instagram, either about where I got them or where I got the fabric. And it's kind of funny because I bought them about 20 years ago online at JCPenney's. But they are in my favorite fabric, which is houndstooth. And I feel like I'm gonna have them for the next 30 plus years because they're just classic. I love the low profile, so you can still see the built-ins and all the fun things that we have in here. And they're just very cozy and small, perfect for gathering in here. And like I said, enjoying a little drink with friends. So I went to our historical society and found a map that had our house on it. This was the oldest map that actually had our house on it from 1886. And I asked the president at the time of our historical society for a copy of the map, took it to Staples, and then had them blow it up. And I had them do it in color so you could see, the old patina on the map, and then had it framed and hung it over the piano so that you could see it when you walk in. All right, let's go into the family room. So here we are in the family room. This is where we spend most of our time as a family together, watching TV or movies. So I wanted this room to be really comfortable, kind of like a deep exhale when, we can all be together as a family. So I found these sofa and love seat that where I chose fabric for them that is linen, and it's that really, comfy, cozy, gets better with time linen that's super easy to wash and great for kids and a dog. So that's been awesome to have that. And my husband, another gift besides the record player for his 40th birthday is this recliner. What I love about it is it doesn't look like a recliner, but he's able to kick back, relax, and watch the game. And it's still like a nice profile and small enough to fit in this room. The lighting in here, I prefer lamps, but I also do love this antique light that was here when we bought the house. It had milk glass shades, but I took them off because I really like the look of just the open Einstein bulbs and that glow that they give off without the shades. One of my favorite things about this room is the bay window. And bay windows are pretty typical of that Italianate Victorian style. So you can see that has this beautiful arch. The first year we moved in here, we hardly had any furniture, so we got the biggest Christmas tree we could find, and we put it right here in this window, and it was so beautiful. But like I said, maybe we had a chair, so it worked out great. My kids would sock skate around it like Charlie Brown. Since then, we've had to get more furniture for our family of 5 and our pup, so we've had to move some things around. We now put our tree in that corner, but I love to showcase this window. I really don't think I'll ever put curtains on these windows because I love the natural light that comes through. And my favorite thing is to sit right here in the morning and have a cup of coffee. The light just comes streaming in, and it's just such a great way to wake up each day. Over here, I have a small gallery wall that I've been adding to over the years. Some of my favorite pieces are hanging here that I've collected. Everything is secondhand again. I found it's an antique store, the same one where I got our Moroccan lanterns, and different thrift stores around us. These pieces, these are actually a set of 4, and they're etchings done by Lionel Barrymore. And just a quick little aside, my favorite movie in the whole world is It's a Wonderful Life. And so when I found these pictures and I saw they were signed by Lionel Barrymore, I thought, I wonder if that's the same actor that was in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Potter. So I did a quick Google search in the thrift store, and it turns out it is. He was an amazing artist. And so when he wasn't acting, when he wasn't working, he would draw and create beautiful art in his spare time. So there's this beautiful set of 4 images that all are around ships and marinas. This one's little boatyard in Venice, quiet waters, and I just think they're so beautiful, and I feel so lucky to find the complete set, especially that had such a connection to the movie that I love. I call it the accidental nautical wall because I didn't mean for them all to be, relating to ships and to the sea, but that's just how it turned out. The bottom picture down here isn't the ocean. It looks like a lake, but it reminded me of Lake Bomoseen, where we've been vacationing every summer for the last 6 years. And this is exactly the view that you see when you get to the lake and you're sitting in the cottage. And it looked just like that. So I got that piece because it reminded me of our family vacations there. Over our gallery wall and over our art here, we have these picture lights that are actually battery operated. Again, with plaster, it's just, it's super tricky to put anything in the walls, and if you make a mistake, things just start to crumble. So we found these battery operated lights so we don't have to run electric, and again, they just turn on with a dimmer, with the remote. Then we can actually dim them at night and turn them off when we don't need them anymore. I chose a round coffee table for this space. I just thought that it fit well. We usually have Stella's big dog bed over there, but again, just like our Parlor coffee table, I usually fill it with things that are seasonal, collected. I have coffee table books, and then this is a conch shell that we just got on our recent family vacation to Turks and Caicos. So we got 2 shells. My kids actually picked them up off of the beach. So they are real, legit, not bought at a market, and we thought we had to bring those home, wash them up, and display them. So we have this big jar of dominoes. When my kids were little, they would always take them out and play with them. Now my nieces, when they come over for family parties, they love to take them out and play with them. So I think I'll keep those on this coffee table as long as I can. And blue and white, you'll see, is a big theme. I love blue and white, so wherever I can incorporate that in our house, I do. Just with little clippings, rooting a tree here. This is my grandmom's cheffalera that over the years everyone's taken a little piece of and have it in their home. More shells that we got on our trip. These are little conch shells. And just some family photos over here. One of the features I love about our home is it is a very closed concept, the opposite of most homes now, but something that I love is every room downstairs has its own French door to close off each space. So I'm sure that was done for draft purposes a long time ago, but now it's just so great. We can come in here in our family room and shut the door and watch a movie, or during parties we can close off a door and kind of have conversations in different spaces. But when we moved in, each door was either painted or stained, so to just kind of make them cohesive, we had all of the doors painted this tricorn black, which I think really shows off the brass hardware and the glass knobs that are on every door. Our house is a Italianate Victorian style. So it was built in 1873, and it was the first house built actually on this street. Our town was founded in 1871 by two Philadelphia businessmen. They worked with the West Jersey Railroad system, and they founded this town in the hopes that it would be like a little summer or vacation country home for Philadelphians that needed a break from city life. So this house is very close to Mantua Creek, which has now been dammed and turned into small lakes. So we're just a few blocks away from the lake, where we can walk and get a break from the heat of the summer. And I imagine that's what they did during Victorian times with their parasols and their layers of clothes, to walk down and take a break from the everyday and the heat of the summer. So over the years, our house has been modified. We don't know a whole lot about it, but we're actually only the 7th owners of this house. So the name of the home is the Rebecca Busby House. We have a little plaque outside I can show you. The house lived with the family for many generations and many decades. So it's kind of interesting that the house is so old, but we're really only the 7th people that have lived in this home. At some point, these giant front porches were added and these tall columns, and there was a cupola on the top, very much part of that Victorian Italianate style. That was removed. A kitchen was added down here in 1922, and a porch was put on top of that in the back of the house. So it was like a sleeping porch / sun porch. So it has been modified. I won't take you down to the basement because it's kind of creepy, but it has an original hearth in the basement and a well, and there was probably a dirt floor that was covered over with cement a while back. So we don't use it except for storage really, because it has low ceilings, but I love that we have that history here. So this is our dining room, and our kitchen is not actually big enough for the 5 of us to sit and share a meal. So we use this table and this dining room for every meal, pretty much every night. I'm a big proponent of eating family meals together, and I really push for it. Even if my kids have sports and activities, or my daughter has dance, if we have to meet and have dinner at 8 o'clock at night, I will push for it because I just love that we can all be together here. This table isn't very old. It's only about 20 years old. It's like an old Pottery Barn table, but the patina on it just gets better every year. And we do have a leaf that we put in, and we have parties, and we host Thanksgiving every year. So it can hold about 12 to 14 people, and we just love to gather around. These are actually dried lime lights. The front of our house has a huge hedge of lime lights. They're almost ready to pop, not quite, but when they do, they are beautiful, and I love to dry them and display them around the house. I have vases in almost every room. I think they get better with time. In the fall, they turn brown, and I'll even clip them and put them into my Christmas tree. So this is an ironstone vessel that I got at a yard sale. My neighbor was selling some amazing antiques, and so I had to get this, but I usually display fresh flowers or these dried lime lights when I don't have something in the yard I can clip. So something that I love in this room are the corner built-ins. I have them filled with a lot of different things. My collections, as you can see, I love blue and white. I love copper. I collect, I have these amber glasses and different plates. These are actually from my grandparents. This is a set of transferware that they bought for us when we got engaged. They lived in a 55 and over community, and they had an estate sale where they found a complete service for 14. And so we use this every year at Thanksgiving, and it's really special to me. So I have this displayed in both of these corner cabinets. Inside the drawers and underneath, I have all of our linens and extra pieces from that same set. And over here, same thing, more blue and white. This was a great secondhand find. This blue flow that I love. It's an urn, and so sometimes I'll put a plant in it. At Christmas, I'll fill it up with pine cones and oranges that we like to put cloves in and just have that as a centerpiece on the table. I love to collect brass and bamboo flatware, so that's all in here, and I change this out all the time. My kids think I'm crazy, but I'm constantly moving and changing things around, but it's just fun for me. I just like to do that. So then I can show you over here, we have a small bar set up. Right now we have just, some basic things for summer, but just to make a quick drink if we have friends over. But I'll have this mirror and our collection of blue and white displayed around the mirror right now. Some of these pieces were antiques. This was from my great aunt, this blue flow plate. I don't know if you can see it back there, but that is very, very old. The rest was, I think, just secondhand finds. These prints are really special. We went to Italy for our 20th wedding anniversary, and we went to Florence one night and stopped at a stationery store and found these really beautiful little cards, these note cards, and they're signed and numbered, and they have just beautiful illustrations of the Duomo and then all of the trees and beautiful fields that you would see in Tuscany. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to frame these because it was an inexpensive way to bring a little piece of our trip home, and that's a great tip. If you don't want to carry big pieces of art home from your travels, stop in a stationery store, grab a postcard or a note card, and then you can frame it when you get home as a memento. This chandelier is also around 20 years old. We got it when we got our table. It's an old Pottery Barn, vintage Pottery Barn chandelier. I do change out the shades for the season. So in the summer, I like to put on the rattan shades, but in the winter, I have black shades again that I'll switch them out too. And then over here, I have this old library table that I've kind of repurposed and used to hold all of my cookbooks and gardening books. So that's right off of the kitchen and easy to grab. I have just a clock that I found a few years back and some of our blue and white. Again, these are just different vases that I've collected. I love ferns. We have a lot of ferns outside on our porch, but I try to keep them alive as long as possible in our house. And so here's a little fern that I have in a blue and white secondhand pot. And let's head into the kitchen. Welcome to our kitchen. So our kitchen, we were told, was updated in 1922. There was a kitchen down in the basement, and so prior to that, like I said, with a hearth and everything and a well, but then around that time they brought everything up and made this kitchen area with this breakfast nook. So we think maybe late 90s, early 2000s, the owners that lived here made some major updates. They put in these beautiful walnut cabinetry, these cabinets that I love that go all the way up to the ceiling. It's funny, I recently posted on Instagram that I had gone into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to turn my whole kitchen white, and then I hated it. So I thought, all right, I'm going to embrace the walnut and the real wood cabinets and even the brass hardware that's on them. That's all coming back now. And we just did a few minor updates to kind of make our kitchen a little bit more timeless and less 90s. So when we first moved in, there were cream Corian counters and ceramic tile that was kind of like a sponge painted, very 90s brown tile. The walls were painted a dark brown. I think there were even like coffee stencils or something like that, or wine stencils. So we had the whole kitchen repainted and all of the trim. Something I always get asked about are our paint colors. And just as an aside, our whole house pretty much is painted Natural Choice by Sherwin-Williams, and all of our trim is Benjamin Moore's Pure White. So we just kind of wanted a clean slate, a fresh, neutral color for our house. And the best part is it looks beautiful in every light, and really just kind of brought our kitchen back to a lighter, brighter place. So we, in 2020, over the pandemic, when everyone was home and bored and wanting to do house projects, we decided to cover up our backsplash that was also sponge painted ceramic tile with this beadboard. So my husband installed that, and then I painted it the Benjamin Moore Pure White to match all of our trim. We didn't replace our floor, we actually covered up the floor with this Mannington vinyl flooring. This is luxury vinyl that looks like slate, and it actually is really grouted. These are real grout lines that right before you came, I just grouted with my grout pen to make them look nice and clean again. And then we replaced the Corian with this quartz that looks like marble, but it's much more sturdy, I guess, for kids and practical for kids. And as I mentioned, I love to cook. So we're always in here, especially my daughter and I, making recipes, old family recipes. We're always cooking, and this is really the heart of our home. We're always in here. I love these large windows over our kitchen sink. I didn't want anything to block them or block the light, so I had these old curtains that I just hemmed to fit this exact size window. So every morning, one of my favorite things is to come in and brew my coffee, and then I open up the curtains like Belle from Beauty and the Beast to start my day. It sounds cheesy, but it's one of those little things that I love. It just kind of, it just brightens up the whole space, and I love that we still get all this natural light during the day without having anything heavy or blinds on the windows. This is our breakfast nook, and when we moved in, as I mentioned, it was dark sponge painted. I think it was like a maroon brown with coffee and wine stencils, very 90s and great at that time, but I just wanted to make the room feel a little bit more classic and timeless. So we brought the slate flooring into here and painted everything this neutral, Natural Choice, and I hung up these little cafe curtains, linen curtains with the black rods, and found this little table, pedestal table, on Facebook Marketplace. Painted it black, and then put these little chairs around it. We can't all sit in here, but if it's just one or two of my kids, maybe having a snack after school, or my daughter uses this a lot for her crafts. This is her craft cabinet, so it's just nice that she can bring her crafts over here. And I've painted and repainted this about 100 times, but it's just a great workhorse for our family. Something that I've added in the last couple of years is this basket rod. I love baskets. I love, love, love baskets. I love anything woven, as you can see. So over the years, I've collected baskets. Some of them are from my grandparents and my parents. And my husband found, this is like an old flagpole that I stained, and then we hung with these brass mounting brackets, and then I found these brass hooks online, and now I hang our baskets up there, which is super convenient when we want to put a basket of chips out or fruit, or go to the garden and collect some of our veggies. They exit to our backyard, but it's also our tiny little mudroom right off of the breakfast nook. So in here, these cabinets hold all of my kids' jackets and backpacks and shoes. This one holds all of my husband's grill supplies, and then there's a small cabinet for our coats and our shoes as well. And then there's a small powder room off of the mudroom, and then our back door that takes you out to our deck. I think my style is really traditional. I love symmetry. I love, old textures and fabrics like leather, something that's timeless. I love houndstooth. I love, classic things. I love brass. I love black. And you'll see that throughout the house. I use a lot of black for grounding, but really it's very collected. I'm a thrifter, so I love to shop secondhand. I love antiques, and I especially love thrifting antiques. So as we walk around today, you'll see it's very collected and it's very intentional. And so when we moved here, I knew that I didn't want to just fill this house with stuff and big box store things, rooms of furniture. I wanted to collect and build layers in this house over time. Okay, so here we are on the front porch. We spend a ton of time out here, 3 seasons actually. This is the plaque I was telling you about. Our house is named the Rebecca Busby House. The Busby family built this house back in 1873. So our historical society gifts a plaque for all of the old homes here in our town. So we're not exactly sure when this porch was added on. We think maybe 75 to 100 years ago. And at that time that this porch was added and the side porch, they put in these beautiful columns. And I just feel like it looks so stately when you pull up and see this big front porch. But we spend so much time out here. We entertain, we have family and friends come up. We have a farmer's market every Thursday in the summer. So we love to sit out here and listen to the music, watch people go by, often invite them up to have a drink with us or just to catch up. In the summertime, we have these limelight hydrangeas that get massive. They're actually really big this year, I think, with all the rain, but they're just about to pop. Next week, they'll probably be open. They provide us so much privacy in the summer. So when I come out here in the morning and have my coffee, I can stay in my PJs and no one really can see us, which is great. But then over time, they'll kind of dry and fall a little bit and turn brown in the winter. So I cut them all and then bring them in to use in the house. So out here I have a lot of different wicker that I've collected over the years, probably a mix of 3 different sets. Nothing is an exact set, but it all kind of just works together. We always hang ferns. I just love how they sway in the breeze. And I have these urns here by the front door. These were left here from previous owner, and they're really heavy wrought iron. And I'm actually so grateful that they left them because they're just so beautiful. I think we have quite a few. I think we have about 6 or 7 of these urns. So I fill them in the summer with ferns and impatiens that love shade when up here on the porch. But then at Christmas time, I'll also fill them with greens and holly and berries and some birchwood and put garland around the door. So they kind of just flank the doorway and they look really pretty. This is the shady side of the porch. We like to joke when it's really hot, we sit on this side. The other side is kind of sunny, so we have matchstick blinds to kind of filter the light. But again, more ferns, palms. I just kind of wanted to look like an outside living room. And so every year I just try to add more plants, more wicker, and then these rugs that kind of ground the space and make it feel like a real living space. So if we make our way down the front steps, you can see I have a few more of those wrought iron planters that I like to fill and change with the seasons. Right now they're filled with geraniums and more ferns, and they're loving all this humidity. My hair, not so much. These urns we've just added here. They were left here with the house, but they were kind of hidden in the backyard and shrubs. So my husband and my sons pulled them out this year, and now I kind of like how they're flanked on both sides of our stairs here. So it's just like a nice welcome when you walk up. So when we moved in, a lot of the landscaping was already here and established, and I'm so grateful for that. We have some really beautiful plants like these lilac bushes. We have 3 or 4 of those that produce the most beautiful fragrant blooms in the spring. The boxwoods were here. We just basically had to clean everything up and maintain it. And luckily my husband loves to landscape. He loves to mow the lawn. He loves to work outside with his hands. So he's really the one that maintains all of our gardens and keeps them looking as beautiful as they do. So if we take a walk down our driveway, we'll head to the side porch. And just as a little aside, this bird bath was from my grandparents' garden, and when they passed, my family offered it to us. So I love that we have a little piece of them outside as well. So here's our side porch, and you can actually access the porch right up the steps or from our family room. That back door was another way that we can access it. So this is just a little space that we've turned into a private little restaurant. Just kidding, but we did put out a small table and chairs so that we can enjoy meals out here together. Sometimes my husband and I will have a date night out here. We'll light some candles, you know, grab the kids some pizza, and then we'll come out here and have a nice dinner together. It's kind of tucked away and private, so it's just a nice place to come and catch up. Out here, I basically just have a sisal jute rug. That's great for outdoors. It can get wet. Again, more hanging ferns. And then I just got this beautiful block print tablecloth from Pacific and Rose online, the blue and white. So of course I love it and had to bring some of that outside. Right now we have it set with the table and chairs, obviously, but when we have parties, we like to use this area for drinks or for food. So we'll kind of move the table aside or bring out additional tables and have everything set up because it's nice and shady and covered. So guests can just come up the steps and, you know, grab what they need and then head out into the backyard. Welcome to our entry. So as you can see, it's a very long, narrow space. So I've tried to make the most of it. When we moved in, there was wall-to-wall floral wallpaper. It was beautiful, just very busy. It was like a maroon and green floral. Actually saved a piece of it. One of these days I'm gonna frame it and hang it up here. But we decided to have that taken down just to kind of open it up a little bit in here. So I added a mirror, and then in the summer I like to display my hat collection. Some of these hats are from places that we've traveled, and some I've just found secondhand. I love straw, rattan, anything woven. You'll see that as a common theme throughout the house. All the walls are plaster in our house, so if you have an old house, you know they are no fun to drill into. So what we came up with is I found these brass sconces secondhand, and then I found these battery operated candles online and just put little black brass shades on top. So they're battery operated, like I said, they're set on a remote, and I usually have these on at night just to kind of add a little bit of warmth to the hallway. One of my favorite parts about our entry is this little radiator moment I have here. Like I said, it's small and very narrow, but I tried to make the most of this space. So while thrifting one day a few years ago, I came upon this little marble shelf with this brass detail. I really didn't know what it was at first. It was covered with old DVDs, but after just kind of looking at it and trying to figure out what it was, I realized it was probably a shelf for a radiator. So I had nothing to measure. I had no idea how big this was, but I brought it home on a whim and it fit. So it was meant to be. And then that helped me to create this little area here where we rest our keys, we put our mail. I have this little asparagus fern. Actually, I shouldn't say it's little because it's huge now. It loves it here. It loves the natural light, and it kind of has gotten wild and crazy. It's a little tricky to check your lipstick in there, but we use the big mirror now. But like I said, I try to change it up seasonally. Right now, I just have, some coral in here. Like I said, I'll change this out at Christmas time, and I'll put, different things for each season. And then on the opposite side, I have a blue and white umbrella stand that I filled with umbrellas, obviously, and some secondhand finds, some canes. And then I have this antique clock that I found that I thought looked really cute there. And then our stairwell here, I fell in love with this newel post, and just so beautiful. When we moved in, we had the steps painted tricorn black, and we left the risers white. And again, this was all covered in wallpaper. We had all of that removed and the plaster smoothed. And then I thought this would be a perfect spot to put all of our the photos of the kids. These are just some of my favorites through the years. I love black and white photography. Again, being a lifestyle photographer, I just love to capture those really authentic moments. My boys, my husband was squirting them with the hose one summer when they were little. These are my other two. They were just fresh out of the bath with their wet heads cracking each other up. We spend a lot of time at the shore, so I have some pictures of my kids. That's usually when we're all together and the happiest, so as you make your way up, you'll see lots of beach pictures here as well. A few years back, we decided that those black painted steps were just a little bit too slippery for our girl Stella, our pup, so we did a little DIY stair runner here. We just used this jute cotton blend that's really easy to work with and nice and thin, and my husband and I, right before Christmas, decided on a whim one day just to staple it in. So this was an easy project, and she doesn't slip anymore on the steps, and the kids with socked feet are much safer too. So it was a great project, and I feel like it adds a lot of warmth to the hallway now. Oh, I love our porches. We live pretty much 3 seasons of the year. We spend out on our front porch, fall, spring and summer. That's my favorite part of our house, even though it's the outside. I love this room. We spend so much time in this room together as a family. I love that we're raising our kids here, and every little layer that we add to it tells our story. All right, on our way up to the attic, I just wanted to stop and show you our landing here. We have a couple of things that I love, some photographs. On this side, I have an old picture of my grandmother and her sister. This was taken the night before their wedding. So they lived in South Philadelphia, and one of their traditions, I don't know if it was a tradition for that area or for Italians getting married, but my grandfather is actually out of view, but he's down here on the street serenading my grandmother the night before their wedding. And so one day I was at my grandparents' house looking through their album, and I saw this picture. And although my grandmother was a stunning bride, and I loved her in her dress, and I loved all of those pictures, this picture stood out to me. The joy on her face, her smile, and just, I thought it was so romantic that he would serenade her, down below on the street the night before they got married. These curtains are a traditional iCat print, which I really love, and we have the woven shades are throughout our entire house. That was one of the first things that we did, was put in these woven shades for privacy. And so that's in every room pretty much. This is one of our wedding photos. We got married right before Christmas on December 6th. So this is one of my favorites that we have hanging here as well. All right, let's head up to the attic office. Welcome to our attic office. So last year, my husband and I renovated this space. This is actually up on the 4th floor of our house. My husband works from home, and so he needed his own little space tucked away from everyone else where he could take his calls and work. So this, we were told, was originally the servants' quarters of our house. And so this is where the staff would stay and sleep, and they actually had their own stairwell on the exterior of the house where they would leave and come and go throughout the day. So what we did was, this room was probably refinished maybe 50 years ago. There was a lot of wallpaper, layers of wallpaper with oil-based paint on the top. So it was kind of a mess. It was lime green when we moved in. So what we did was we tried to make the most of the wallpaper seams, and we used trim work to kind of hide the seams that we couldn't spackle or repair, because as I've mentioned, plaster is just so tricky to work with. Once you start chipping away, it just kind of disintegrates. So we just came up with this idea to kind of create this wainscoting type of look using trim work. So painted everything again, natural choice, and it really just brightened everything up. The desk is a secondhand find, of course. I found this beautiful wood desk for my husband. The chair I found just online, and the brass lamp is also secondhand. All the picture frames in here are secondhand. My husband, as I mentioned, is a drummer, so he has an electric drum set up here, which is a lot quieter than his other drum set. So sometimes while he's working, he'll just turn and play. But we also have some of his drum set over here, and then his bongos on this side. This area behind you used to be the other part of the stairwell. So it was basically just like a sloped area that my kids use as a slide. And when we decided to refinish this, we didn't know what to do with this space. My husband had the idea of making built-ins to kind of utilize it, and also it gave him one flat solid wall, because as you can see, we don't really have any flat walls here. So that's what he did, and he used beadboard as a backing, and in here we just have more family photos, some of his books. These are antique trucks that were his great-grandfathers, I believe, and here's an old ship that was his great-grandfather's. And some of his awards that he's received over the years. This is my husband's grandfather's from the Korean War. I believe this was his flashlight and his compass. So I just wanted to incorporate some of these special items in his office since he's up here all the time. And then to the left, we have this little alcove. Wasn't really sure what to do with it. It was kind of wasted space, so I decided to search Facebook Marketplace to see if I could find an old chair, and came across this beautiful old worn leather chair, and now it's the perfect little chair to put in this corner and just take a rest. Sometimes I'll come up here and sit with him and talk, and I found this antique table that fit nicely with it. Another secondhand find, this little copper piggy bank. And again, my battery light trick, I found these sconces that I loved online. So I cut all the cords, and they're not run by actual electric. They are the rechargeable light bulbs that are screwed in there. So again, by remote, they can be turned on and off, which is really convenient for extra lighting. The curtains I made, this was fabric that I found secondhand from Ballard that I love, the stripe. So I just had to hem those. They're hanging with ring clips, and the little leather tie backs that kind of tie in with the leather chair and desk chair. And then this gallery wall has kind of evolved over time. I framed this old American flag, and this horseshoe was actually a horseshoe that my husband found in the hearth of our creepy, scary basement before we moved in. he was cleaning out the basement, and he actually sent me a text in the middle of the night. It was probably 1 o'clock in the morning. He was here by himself cleaning, and he sent me a text with the horseshoe in his hand. And he said, "It's meant to be. We're meant to be in this house. I just found this horseshoe in the hearth of our basement." So I have it hanging because I just feel like it was a sign that we had made the right move. And it just kind of reminds me of my grandfather as well, who also loved horses. This horse was the Derby winner right at the same time that our house was built. So I hung that here. I thought that was kind of cool. And again, I just bringing into the nautical theme. You know, we have the diver down flag that my husband found, and just another beach scene. Found this brass plaque that says captain. So we joke that he's the captain up here. And then there was a light here that was just so awkward and hard to find, you know, a light that wasn't protruding off the wall because it's on an angle. So I actually decided to use a sauna light and found that online, and that's worked great for when we come up the steps, and we can just flip the light on and it's not in the way. Started out as a first grade teacher back in 2001, and I taught first grade for 11 years. And then after I had our third child, I had 3 kids under 5. So I thought that was a good time to take a little break from teaching. That little break actually became a 7.5-year break, which was amazing. And we're so grateful because I was able to stay home with our kids at really pivotal years. And during that time, I actually started a part-time photography business. So I was a lifestyle photographer. During that time, I've kind of shied away from that in the past few years because I actually went back to teaching recently. So now I'm a reading teacher, and I get to focus on teaching what I absolutely love, which is reading, and for the little guys, K to 2. But I also am a hobbyist photographer still, and instead of photographing families, I've pretty much photographed our home for the last 9 years that we've lived here. And so I have an Instagram that I've been growing slowly or very organically. It's called Cherry Street Blossoms, and I named it after our street, Cherry Street, and just a fun little play on words there because I feel like we're kind of, you know, working on this house and really breathing new life into it and helping it blossom and grow with our family. Okay, here we are in the backyard. Right up the steps here, we have a deck off of the breakfast nook in the kitchen area. So we have a lot of our meals outside here together as a family. We love to grill. My husband loves to use his smoker and his grill. So we have those out right outside of our back door. This is where we sit and gather and have our meals. Over the years, we've added trees and landscaping so that we feel kind of closed off and private back here. We have more lilac bushes that fill with beautiful purple blossoms in the spring. And then this is actually a very mature crepe myrtle that in just a few weeks will be filled with big pink blossoms. It's really beautiful. So out here on the deck, I have pots of herbs and these topiaries that hopefully will begin to climb with these beautiful flowers. And I will take you out to our backyard where our garden is. So heading into the backyard, on the left here, when we moved in, there was absolutely nothing. It was just a picket fence. So over the years, we planted shrubs and trees to kind of give us some more privacy. This is one of our favorite trees, this weeping willow that has just kind of gone crazy this summer, but we love it out here. Over to the right, we have our fire pit area that we created during around 2020 during the pandemic when we were just spending some more time outside together as a family. So my husband and I kind of created this little space with pea gravel and Adirondack chairs and this copper fire pit. This wrought iron bench, I don't know if you can see it tucked back in the lilacs, That was here. It wasn't actually in that spot. We had some friends help us move it there because it weighs about 900 pounds, but we've actually used that as part of the seating in our fire pit area. So we come out here as a family, especially in the fall and the winter. We have fires, we make s'mores, and it's just another little gathering spot for our kids. And then back here, we have a small garden. I actually just got some ripe tomatoes, so I picked some grape tomatoes, and this is our first year actually having success with cucumbers. So I've picked some veggies before you came over. My kids, my daughter especially, loves to help me grow veggies. And then off in the back here, we have our carriage house, which is converted to a 2-car garage now with an attached potting shed. And right above our garage is a hayloft. So as we were putting in the landscaping back here and digging holes for different trees and shrubs, one day my husband was digging and found another horseshoe from the hayloft. So we have that saved. Sometimes I'll put it out on the coffee table, but just another little artifact that we thought was really cool. Probably 100 years old at least, from this carriage house and this hayloft area. Home to me is a memory box. It's, of course, all of the stuff that you've collected over the years, you know, your mementos from vacations and travel and photographs, all of that. But home is also the smells of your family, you know, sharing a meal together. I love to cook, so I hope that my kids remember the smells of their favorite meals. Sounds, we're always playing music in our house, and I think that soundtrack builds over the years. And again, I hope my kids, you know, take that and hold those memories as the remembrance of home. All of those layers together, even the light. Being a photographer, I'm always paying attention to the light, and I feel like those, the way the sun streams in the house in the morning, or you know, while we're eating a meal together at night, I feel like those all come together to give the home a soul, to make it just be a place of connection and love, and yeah, I think that's it. Okay, Homeworthy, looks like my kids are home. We better get out of here. Thanks so much for coming by. See you later.
Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Rachel Ciasco from Burleson, Texas, and welcome to my homes, and come on in. I'm Rachel Ciasco. I'm a floral designer and I specialize in home design, and this is my home. We purchased the land first in 2021, and then we decided to start our build. We did a custom home, so we got to design every aspect of the house, and we wanted to work from home as well, so we also designed an outside studio for floral design and office work and stuff like that. So one of the biggest things that I wanted to emphasize in our home was windows and natural light. So I put windows in almost every spot in the main living area, and that was one of my biggest design choices for the build. So this is my living room. We designed it around the large mantle fireplace stone. And I wanted a very open concept, but I wanted it to feel cozy and have character. I wanted it to feel very vintage and lived in because it is a new build. And we added the natural stone and a wood mantle, open shelving. We added some vintage aspects to the living room. So we have a piano from my childhood that we added underneath our artwork TV. So we thought that that added a very cozy look to the space. We also added aspects of vintage furniture and mirrors to kind of give that lived-in look. I have a bunch of antique malls I go to and different areas around DFW that I find antiques and repurposed items, so it helps kind of make a more cozy feel. So our mantle, I try and source a lot of like floral aesthetic items as well that look vintage and kind of add to the overall theme of the vintage modern in the house. And so I got a couple of the artwork pieces at different antique malls around DFW, and then I also add a lot of dried florals to my decor in my house as well because they're preserved and they add some texture to the design. A lot of people ask me why I set up my open concept living space with the couch not facing the mantle, and I thought it was a really great way to kind of emphasize the grandness of the fireplace and mantle. So I put our TV and our piano hutch over here, so it kind of opened up the space and made it feel more like a room. And our couch is super cozy. It's from Albany Park, and I like different rugs to add different color tones in each season to make it feel vibrant. We added a more oval coffee table because I do feel like everything is very boxy in this room sometimes, so I wanted to add different shapes to add dimension and depth to the space. On the back side of our couch, I sourced a sofa table / buffet table, and it's actually from the early 1900s, and it was a Facebook marketplace find actually, and I was just hunting and I found it, and it was a really good deal, and I thought it added a lot of fun character to the space. So we also added a really large chandelier. I went with more of a modern look because it is such a high ceiling. I wanted to add a different type of feel than just like a ceiling fan, so I wanted something modern added in with the vintage, so it really helped open up the ceiling area. Welcome to my kitchen. With an open concept kitchen, I really wanted to focus on hosting family and friends, and it is really accommodating for more kids and super easy to get around. So whenever I was designing this kitchen, I love cabinets, but I also don't like it when it's all cabinets. So I wanted to kind of diversify it and do a lot of open shelving. So instead of cabinets on this kitchen window wall, I added a lot of open shelves so you can see the items that we use, and I could also decorate it and make it feel a little more cozy and less modern. I added warm wood tones instead of like an all-white kitchen, so it felt more lived in and cozy. Just that's kind of like the overall theme around here is cozy. One of my favorite areas of the kitchen is probably going to be the stove area. I decided instead of doing a traditional backsplash to do a all stone backsplash on the back side of it and add a vintage pot filler. It was more of like a modern feel into a vintage look as well. So the stone is a natural quartzite stone. So instead of doing a regular tile on the backsplash, we did get it custom cut to this space. This is another spot where I sourced different artwork from a vintage shop, and this one is kind of like a pencil sketch of some florals, which is also the theme around here, florals. And this is just a vase, like a wall vase. So you can put fresh flowers and you can put it on the wall just to enjoy. I use this a lot when I cut flowers from my garden. One of our most frequented spots in the kitchen is our coffee bar. It was going to be a Butler's Pantry, but we decided to make it its own little coffee nook. And we also added a wine cooler at the bottom. And we love this space. We use it all the time, all day. We added the open shelving like I did over by the kitchen window, and we added these brass railings to kind of add to that vintage look once again. I thought that was a really cool, unique thing that we added to the shelves. We also went with a different color cabinet in here as opposed to the stained wood out in the main area, just to kind of give it a different feel, like its own little room and space. We love how it turned out. We also sourced some brass vintage hardware, and we love the brand Smeg coffee makers. They're the best, so it's a really fun space. Very big coffee fan. I think I drink it like 3 times a day. I don't know. I always add cinnamon in my coffee. It's kind of like a thing around here. It's just like always add cinnamon for some reason. So I'm kind of known for that online. They're like, oh, add cinnamon to your coffee. But we love coffee. So one of my favorite spots in the kitchen is also the kitchen island. So we added a lot of drawers on the back side. I am more of a fan of drawers than cabinets. I think it holds more and they're deeper, so we could get to all of our items. We also added the natural stone quartzite to the island as well. And it's kind of like a focal point in our kitchen. So I always have fresh flowers in the middle. So I design those every week so it can be fresh and fun with the seasons. It's definitely one of my favorite areas in the kitchen. Next we have our china cabinet hutch. It's just kind of where I put different pieces and different collectibles that I find, like glassware and different dishes that I have sourced from antique shops. And it's just a nice little kind of show area for our stuff. So I do love our island pendants. These ones were definitely different. You don't see a lot of pendants with shades on them, but I thought it added a really different feel in the kitchen. Since the kitchen is a vaulted kitchen, it was a lot harder to find something that would hang low enough, but I think this kind of helped fill in that area in the ceiling to where it felt like its own space in the open concept feel. Most kitchens have the drop ceilings, and I didn't want to drop the ceiling down. I wanted to keep it all open like a big cathedral room. And for the vent hood, I went with a natural plaster, and I decided to bump out the drywall and go all the way to the ceiling within the vault so I could add really pretty artwork to the top. I change out the artwork all the time, and it depends on like the season as well. So this one is very kind of like summery with fruit and florals, and it's one of my favorite spots to add artwork. So for our sink area, I added kind of a brass vintage faucet, and it has a really pretty detailed white lever, and so I thought that was really fun. It added a really pretty detail. We also changed the backsplash on this wall, so it's not the stone. We did the kind of the more different textured tile, and we went all the way up with the tile as well. This bell on this wall I found as well, and it's super fun to ding when the dinner is ready, and my daughter, she loves it. So on my open shelves on this wall, I usually add stuff that we do use. So I'll still add our plates and our cups, but I'll add different decor too to kind of mix through it so it looks a little more styled. And it's definitely one of my favorite things to design in the house, and I change it like probably every 3 months or so. And this is our walk-in pantry. We added a glass panel door, and we painted it black just for like a really fun, different look. And we did paint the inside of the pantry a dark blue. And we once again added those vintage aspects, baskets for organization, and it just makes it feel like another space that you can walk into, and it's kind of done up and not just your regular white pantry with just a bunch of food in it. It just seems like kind of like an experience. And I also added a really pretty rug and a bench, and then a really beautiful vintage painting of some fruit. And I made like a little hanging rail, and we added a light sconce above that just to make the space feel super cozy and more decorated. And this is our open concept dining space. It bridges the kitchen to the living room. So when we have gatherings, it's really nice because nobody feels separated. We all still feel together when we're all in the kitchen, the dining, or the living. And it's definitely really easy for the kids because then I can see them and it's not like a totally different space when we're cooking. And it's a really light and airy open feel. We went with a 9-foot table and we got it custom made because I wanted to be able to have everybody at the table at once in my family, because I do have a really big family on my side. I have a lot of siblings, and so when we have dinner, I wanted everyone to be able to be at the same table. And so it is a custom size, and we also got a custom bench made with it. And I liked adding different chairs to the table because it makes it feel a little more unique and not so uniform. And it's definitely one of my favorite areas. And this is our master bedroom. It's definitely probably one of my most favorite rooms that I've decorated. I did a kind of an evergreen paint color, and I decided to color drench the entire room. So that means you paint basically every bit of it, including the ceilings and the trim. And I added this really pretty gallery wall to my left with the large gold mirror. It's super tall, so when I added the mirror, I was like, well, this wall looks so blank and empty. And so I went and I found a bunch of different artwork and I just kind of pieced them all together like a little puzzle, and it ended up making this really cool accent wall. This dresser is super vintage. I ended up adding paint to it and making it even look more vintage and kind of roughed up a little bit. And I just love the way it turned out. And where our bed is placed in the room, there is an accent wall on the back side of it. It's painted the same color, but we added different trim pieces to make it look like board and batten. We also sourced a rattan darker brown finish headboard to give it that contrast with the paint. And the overall theme of this room is kind of like a garden-y feel, along with this vintage sourced items as well. This dresser is also a favorite. It's actually from Anthropologie. I love the stain color, and it just kind of adds a lot more warmth and depth into the space. And I love it right by the window. The sun hits it and it glistens. I also really love this art piece. It's a hand embroidered art, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful to add to the space with the different colors and features next to the mirror. All of these items on this dresser have been kind of like collected, and so including the jewelry box and the trays, and it's just, I love all the details about it. And this is our primary bathroom. This was probably one of my favorite rooms in the entire house to design. It really focuses on the large soaker tub and the vintage faucet and shower. The most unique part of this bathroom is the 8-foot glass wall that we added to the backside of the tub that looks straight into the shower. And we added a really pretty mosaic tile behind it to kind of give a more unique feel within the space. We also added more of a muted pink wall color, and it really helped kind of warm up the bathroom. It was all white at first with the wood cabinets, but once we added the pink, it just kind of made it feel so much more cozy and warm. The vanities, we did a separate vanity on each side of the doorway. We did the vintage faucets. We also did a hardwood and warm color stain. Both of the vanities, I I kept the vintage modern look going, and so I sourced the mirrors from a modern website online called Joss and Main, and I wanted a really grand, tall look because the ceilings are so tall. And so I thought the mirrors on both sides of the vanity really helped achieve that. So the tile in the bathroom, we did a herringbone tile, so it looks like zigzag instead of just straight along, and it also has that marble detailing to the bottom, so it gives it a really unique look to the space as well. I ended up adding light sconces in the bathroom that have shades on it, and then the bathroom vanities also do too, just to give it that feeling, that warm feeling again. It's not just like a sterile bathroom that you're walking into. I also added something that a lot of people don't have in their bathrooms. I made a little seating area over by my side of the vanity. I also have a window right there, and the sun comes in from the garden, and so it's just a really nice little corner nook of just a little seating. So if you're like putting on your shoes or whatever, it's just a really fun like little space to have behind all the bathroom stuff. So our closet is right off of the back side of the primary bathroom. My vision when it came to my bedroom suite was easy access to the closet through the bathroom, but also our closet is connected to our laundry room with a pocket door. So that was also a big deal because my washer and dryers are right next to my closet. And this is my daughter's room. We had so much fun designing this. I really designed it around florals mainly, and we also added some really beautiful wall trim. So we did the picture molding on all the walls to give it like a different unique feel instead of just adding paint. We added a really dark mauve pink to really emphasize like roses because her name is Rosie, and a lot of different textures with the bedding and quilts. And we added a vintage dresser and different floral patterned curtains, and it was a super fun space to design for her. I did find a lot of rattan wicker furniture to add to the different texture of the space. It really helped bring the warmth in with the pink as well. I added a couple wall candle sconces on each side of the picture molding with some vintage artwork in the middle. She loves bunnies, and so I was trying to source a more whimsical theme with bunnies and flowers and just make it more of a like enchanted room. And this is my second daughter's room. She still is a baby, so we still have the crib in here. I kept the vintage theme going, but I added different textures to the walls. I did a wood paneling on the bottom half, and then we painted that a really pretty green color and left the top white. We sourced different vintage furniture items like this dresser and just kind of kept that modern vintage feel throughout her room as well. I sourced this piece of artwork actually from more of like a mainstream store. I thought it was perfect with the green color. Gave a very like woodsy feeling. I wanted this space to be more neutral with character because she is still a baby, and it wanted it to feel more calming in here because she doesn't really necessarily play with a bunch of toys yet. And now we are at our back patio. We are huge outdoor people, so I wanted to bring our living area from inside and then just transfer it to outside. And so we kept a mirroring fireplace that you can see behind me. And I made a cozy little living space right outside of it. We did add a pool that leads from the back sliding doors directly out into a really scenic view with the background. Our whole idea was to spend just as much time outside as inside because we just love the view and the scenery. So we really made this a super important part of our builds. So instead of placing an outdoor TV or just a piece of artwork out here, I decided to take the mantle and just be a little more unique with it. I added some vines and some trellises with a vintage artwork. Again, I sourced some different pots from different stores around the DFW and just kind of made it its kind of unique moment. We really emphasized the seating around our pool. We added multiple different levels of lounge chairs and rocking chairs. We love to have a bunch of people over. We love to have family and entertain. So we added a lot of different entertainment pieces to our backyard in general. We have an in-ground trampoline, a play set for kids with a turf soccer area, and just trying to find every little different entertainment space that we could, and it's been such a joy to have. Welcome to my floral studio. I have been a wedding floral designer for 10 years now, and it has transformed into home design over time. And I am able to design at home now in my at-home studio, and I have gained a pretty good following on Instagram on my home design account, and I kind of mixed that with gardening and designing florals. I also have my own cut flower garden, and I do all of that from seed. And over the years, I've kind of learned how to successfully grow different cut flowers, and I also incorporate those in my designs as well. And it's been such a fun learning experience to have my own garden in my backyard that I can go to every day. My biggest piece of advice for gardening is to just start and not overthink it, because nature will grow itself and all you have to do is provide a good environment. When designing my studio, I wanted it to be very eclectic. I still added the vintage stuff that I usually do, but I wanted the color to just be all over the place and different, and more of deep, richer tones. The flooring is one of my favorites. I did a diamond checkered look, black and white, and it just made it so fun. I also added a custom painted mural by an artist over in the sitting area, and I did a ceiling floral hanging from the top, and it kind of made it its own little fun space. And I added a lot of open shelves behind me. It's kind of like a catch-all for like floral vases, candles that I sell, different decor items just for the wedding business and for the home design business as well, but it also kind of doubles as decor. And now I will show you how I make one of my arrangements. So I'm going to make a kind of a wildflowered theme floral arrangement from different wildflowers that naturally grow around the area, and some from other places too, but a lot of these do really well where I live in Texas. So I'm going to take these out really quickly so I can see what we're designing with. We're also going to use some flowers from my garden too, so add some different elements into it. I'm going to start with some sunflowers, just because I thought it was fitting for summer. They love heat, so they do very well here. When you're designing a floral arrangement, you want to do the bigger blooms first to establish your shape. And so I'm going to go in with some roses next. And these are called golden mustard roses. These are actually sourced from Holland. You can touch rose petals. You just have to be more, I mean, you have to be pretty gentle, but most roses can handle it. It's just white roses, they will brown quicker because they're more delicate and they don't have any color pigment. And so the colored roses do great. And so I'm just kind of folding these back to give it a bigger look. And it kind of looks more artistic this way. So a lot of florists are doing that now, and it's kind of cool. All right. Hellebores. My favorite flower to work with, I think, would be probably ranunculus. They have the most variety of color. Well, roses do, but that's like the second best. And they're dainty, but they fill in really pretty, and they add more of a different shape. Like this is a ranunculus, and so like I do it a little taller, and so it'll be kind of like the dancing flowers is what they call it, because their stems are like kind of more squiggly and more long, and it just adds a different element. I love ranunculus. They can be used in a lot of different ways. I would definitely classify myself as more of a garden and organic floral designer. Like my stuff doesn't have a shape necessarily. We try and make it look like it's growing out of a garden, as opposed to like a circle, like a traditional round circle design, which is more of like your classic ballroom look, which I mean is beautiful in certain areas, but it's just not my preferred style. I am not a fan of baby's breath at all. It is hard to work with. It smells really bad, and it's just not very forgiving on much fun design. And it was a fad for a while too. A lot of people loved baby's breath, and I was like, no, please don't. It's boring. There's definitely stuff like I've seen that you shouldn't put together, like sunflowers and carnations. That looks really bad. I don't know why, it just does. And then I've seen sunflowers and baby's breath, and I don't think that looks good either. They just don't look good together. I've noticed more color is coming into style, which is really nice, because for a while there it was just blush and white, and we were getting very bored of just blush and white. But everybody seems to be really open to color now, which is really nice. So I'm excited for the color trend. If you're gonna get any grocery store flowers, just make sure before you design them to take off all the greenery off the stems. A lot of times I see people just grab the arrangement and throw it in water, and then all the greenery is still on the roses and on the flowers, and then the water gets really gross and yucky and infected, and then all the flowers die within like a day. So take off all your greenery, use the preservative that they give you at the store, and put them in the fridge at night, and they'll last way longer. We're just making a little flower arrangement, or wildflower arrangement. I think I kind of know, like the moment it's done, I'm like, okay, I don't need any more, or it just kind of looks overcrowded. But almost done, so close. I have like a chicken wire base, and then you can use floral foam, which I use a lot for weddings, and it soaks in the water more. And I like to use that more for weddings though, because it's pretty expensive to just have on deck all the time. Close, one more flower. After you get like your main blooms in, you usually go in with like your small filler flowers, and that'll fill all the gaps in between. And then we'll be done. So I'm adding some chamomile for the filler flower, and it's like a little wildflower. I actually ordered these from the wholesaler, but you definitely can grow chamomile. They're just a little more finicky in heat. So living in a really hot climate in the summer, it's kind of hard to have them happy all the time. And there we go. it is complete, and we have a wildflower floral arrangement. This could definitely be used for like a centerpiece at your dinner table, your kitchen island, kind of like a fun summer garden party. Kind of looks like that vibe. All right, Homeworthy, thanks for coming, and it was fun showing you around, but I gotta go now.